All right, I think we're live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, the one and only Jez Corden. What's going on, buddy?
Hey man. Just got back from a nice vacation to the seaside. Catching some sun. Got a tan. Well, I got burnt. To a crisp. But my skin doesn't see a lot of sunlight around. I don't know if you're aware of this, but yeah, I don't do too well in sunlight. I'm kind of like a vampire or something.
Mm.
But maybe I should audition for a part in Redfall. I don't know. But been pretty good, man. Been pretty good. How have you been? Friend?
Actually been pretty good in myself. I don't know. I've been. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but like I've been. Remember when I talked about my books that I had sold or whatever?
Yes.
I rebought a bunch of them, and I have been reading a lot, rereading The Wheel of Time, and I'm on the 5th book. So I just kind of been chilling, man. Just been reading, playing some Deathloop, but it's
intellectual confirmed.
Yeah, intellectual confirmed. But I want to hear about your vacation, because this you're one of those people that doesn't like to go on vacation often because they're always feeling the need in the back of their head to be like, I need to work, I need to write articles, I need to do some things, right?
Yep.
And you went on a vacation with your girlfriend.
Yes, I did.
So how was it? First vacation in 3 years? What'd you guys do?
Yeah, first real vacation in years. Like first actual traveling. Well, I suppose I traveled to Germany on a plane during the pandemic, but this is the first like traveling for leisure since the pandemic. Well, not that the pandemic's ended, but since it got under control somewhat in Europe. The pandemic's under control to some degree in some parts of Europe. So it was interesting. A lot of mask mandates, a lot of regulations going on, but it was nice, man. Went on a pirate ship. I played xCloud at sea. I played Sea of Thieves in the sea.
Mm.
Did you see my tweet?
I don't think I saw that one. No.
Yeah. I tweeted out a picture of me playing Sea of Thieves on a pirate ship in the middle of the Baltic Sea, which somehow I still had a 5G signal in the middle of the Baltic Sea. So that was interesting. Got over 4,000 likes on Twitter. Lots of people saying, "Oh my God, so sad. You go to the beach and what do? You play video games." Well, yeah. What else am I gonna do, man?
Yeah, it's not like you're gonna go swimming or anything, right?
No. I did go in the sea a bit though. I did go in the sea. Very, very cold Baltic Sea. Very cold. Lots of jellyfish. A lot of jellyfish in the Baltic Sea. But it was nice, man. It was a really, really good time. I think I've started to figure out how to balance work and play to some degree. I still did a bit of work while I was on vacation. But you know what, Rand? I've come to accept that I just enjoy my job. Mm-hmm. So, like, I helped Matt with some stuff, and I helped prep that Redfall. Did you see the Redfall leak from last week?
I sure did, and we'll definitely be talking about it.
Yeah, I helped prep that. But it was a good time, man. It was a good time. But I'm glad to be back. I'm re-energized. I put out a bunch of leaks earlier.
Yeah,
so, back in the saddle.
More projects that Xbox is working on. It's like, how many games are they working on? It seems, Jez. Like,
man, I've lost count, man. I've lost count.
And you even have leaks about other titles you're not sharing just yet, right?
Yeah, dude. There's so much. There is so much that Microsoft's working on right now. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it, man. And it's really hard to keep quiet about some of it, but I'm going to do it because some of this stuff, some of the stuff like in XLTs that we're working on a FPS RPG, so it's not a huge shock about that. And, I think some of the smaller games are not sort of the big sort of, the things people want to hear about, like I'm excited for Project Indus, and I'm going to talk about it in a bit. But I know that's not the headline attention-grabbing game for a lot of people. Even though I am a big fan of 4X strategy personally. But dude, there's just so much, man. There's so much to look forward to. And honestly, and I'm not just saying this, I'm not being even vaguely hyperbolic here. It is probably the best time ever to be an Xbox fan. Like, beyond 360 gen, beyond anything. This is like, right now, is the best time to be an Xbox fan. But the next 2 years are absolutely stacked. And it's great. It's just great. I'm going to have so much to write about. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, but Xbox doesn't have a superhero game, Jez. So it's over. It's done with.
Man. I suppose we need to talk about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did miss last week. Jez was on vacation. We apologize. I had some people ask me to do the show solo, but I was like, I don't know. And I did think about maybe like just doing a podcast with like Colt or Cognito or something, but I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna relax. I was just reading my books, playing some Deathloop, and I'm like, we'll come back stronger next week. So that's why there wasn't any show last week, because Jez was on vacation. So yeah. Thanks for everybody for being here. It's really awesome to see everybody. I know I've been getting a lot of DMs lately about people asking me if I'm good. Because I didn't tweet much and I didn't make a video this week. And honestly, like, I think it's because like I am just in this mode of just reading. Like I'll wake up and I'll just sit down and I'll just open up my book and just read. And then, okay, well now it's time to play video games or something and I'll just read. Like, I don't even care. Like, I saw the NVIDIA leak stuff, and while none of it was truly surprising, I thought about making a video, but I was just like, you know what? I'd rather just read. I don't know. I don't know what's... And it's funny because I've read this series, like, 3 times. I never finished it because Robert Jordan died in 2007, and by the time they got another author to finish it in 2013, it had been so long since I had read the books, I was like, well, I need to reread the whole series, and I didn't want to do it at that time. But after we talked about this on the podcast, I decided, you know what? I bought the books, and then I bought the first 3 because who knows? Like, it's been a long time since I've read them, right? I mean, who knows if I'll like them again? And then, like, I finished the first book in, like, 2 days, and that's, like, 900 pages. These books aren't, like... They aren't slim. These are all, like, 900 to 1,000-page books. And then I bought all 15 of them, and I've kind of just been sitting here just enjoying just reading. I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm crazy. But, like, that's... I don't know, and I've been, like, so happy doing it. I
am getting crazy vibes right now. Not gonna lie.
You are getting what?
Crazy vibes.
Yeah. I am. I'm crazy. And I was a little bit sick yesterday. I told you I went and got my second COVID shot, so I was a little bit hit hard.
Yeah, that's
really
that's
bad
just
headache.
the 5G. That's the 5G.
Yeah, the 5G.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm just kind of like really happy. Like, I don't know, like, even though there hasn't been too much to like really talk about Xbox news wise or whatever, I just kind of just don't. I just been sitting in my reclining chair just reading books, and it's, I don't know, I'm just it just makes me happy. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. But we have been playing some games. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But we do have a lot of topics here to talk about, Jez, which will be getting to Xbox leaks, your information about Project Cobalt and Indus. Is there a new Xbox Series X and S, a more powerful one, coming sometime in the near future? PS5 Showcase and what it means for Xbox, Redfall, and these ridiculous Xbox acquisition rumors. Why do these keep on... like, now it seems like people expect there to be something imminent. Like, Monday morning, you're going to wake up and see that Microsoft has acquired some big publisher. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Because, my God, like, I log into Twitter and I have like 10 DMs from people asking me about Warner Brothers and Ubisoft and Take-Two and like every single possible publisher you can imagine. Somehow Xbox is buying them, right? And I know the same's been for you. I know your DMs are crazy, and I'm sure people are asking, like, I don't know what's going on in Twitter. It seems like everybody thinks or knows something is happening, and usually when something like that is going on, usually nothing is happening. But see, my dog knows nothing is happening. So, what we got here? Andrew says, "Wow, haven't caught a live show in a long time." Well, thanks for being here. Slow-Mo says Stormlight Archives is greater than the Wheel of Time. Well, I haven't read the Stormlight Archives yet from Sanderson, so I will get to that at some point. I have like 15 books to read here, Slow-Mo. Give me some time, man. Jacqueline Branch says another author ran, give Brandon Sanderson his due. I haven't read any of Brandon Sanderson's books, so to me, right now, he is just another author. He isn't Robert Jordan. King Prell says, what do you think about Game Pass getting blamed a lot? Jez, what do you think about that? About Game Pass getting blamed for everything recently?
Oh, it's just ridiculous. I think like it hasn't been out long enough to really, truly sort of make a mark on the way games are being made. And honestly, I don't think we've seen a trend in any direction right now. Microsoft has service games coming. They have single-player games coming. They have single-player games that just have no microtransactions and no multiplayer coming, which are supposedly the games that Game Pass are for. So I think like all the stuff about Game Pass affecting the way games are made is just BS. And I've been told by studio heads that Microsoft isn't mandating anything with regards to how games are made. So I think like maybe down the line, maybe post Phil Spencer, something might happen. You know, I think that's a fair thing that we should, as a community, as an Xbox community, we should keep an eye on that, right? Mm-hmm. If Microsoft starts putting out nothing but service games with microtransactions free to play, then we should stand up and say something about it. But right now, there's no reason to panic. It's just FUD.
Well, I think also it's a lot to do with like fanboys of the opposite console. Like they like to troll, they like to just be annoying, and they blame Game Pass for everything. Like the big thing was like Psychonauts 2 recently didn't chart on anybody, you know, like on Xbox, on PlayStation, whatever, and you know they used the excuse that like, well, I thought Phil Spencer said that Game Pass increases the sales of games, right? So they use Psychonauts 2 not charting as more proof of Phil's lies. Like, what? He's always lying about Game Pass, and this is just further proof of his lies. And I don't know, I must have missed something where they said Game Pass improves the sales of every game in the service, right?
Yeah, they've always just said we've seen evidence to suggest that.
Yeah,
you know?
For some games. I don't think Psychonauts 2 was ever going to do well. It was a cult classic. The original bombed. It didn't really do much. And I didn't expect a lot of people to buy Psychonauts despite the great reviews. And, you know, you could make the argument Xbox gamers played it on Game Pass, and PlayStation gamers, just like with Outriders, didn't bother to support it or buy it. Right? Mm-hmm. That's a little jab. But you know, because it's on PlayStation, it didn't seem like you guys decided to support it either. But I think they're perfectly happy with Psychonauts 2. And I think they're incredibly excited about what Double Fine is going to do, you know, in the next couple years for their next title. So just because Psychonauts 2 didn't chart doesn't mean that, oh my God, the lies about Game Pass. Like, shut the fuck up. God damn. It angers me sometimes, Jez, when I have to wade through this garbage I see on social media most of the time from people who think
that...
grind my gears, yeah. It's just annoying to see this sort of stuff. I don't know. And it's like, there's games to play, like Deathloop, but yet nobody's playing Deathloop. I feel like I'm the only person playing Deathloop, which is strange.
I started playing Deathloop on PC, but then I was like, I want this on my Xbox, really. So
yeah, you want to play it on your Xbox, yeah.
Part of me's like, I might just wait. Wait for Xbox version. But I did play it a fair bit, and I did get some hours in, and man, Arcane's just they're a top tier dev, like tier 1 dev, I think. Arcane.
Yeah, they sure are.
They're in my top 3 right now, easily. Oh well.
They are an amazing dev. Chaos Might Jez says, glad to see both of you back. What games are you looking forward to the most for 2022? This is for both of you. 2022.
Starfield, right?
Yeah, Starfield, that'd probably be for you. I'd probably say God of War Ragnarok. I thought God of War 2018 was amazing, and supposedly this one's gonna close the Norse saga. So I'm definitely interested.
Sad dad games.
What?
That's funny.
No, it's funny because I think you posted that one of the Discords I'm in. It's like, oh, Rand only cares about sad dad games, cinematic over the shoulder sad dad games, which isn't necessarily true. I just really like God of War. I've always liked God of War. So as far as what we know for 2022, yeah, God of War is probably number one for me. Starfield is...
Well, Dying Light 2 has been shifted to 2022.
Yeah, Dying Light 2 got shifted. And
what about Halo? Well, Halo might shift to 2022, right?
I think at this point they're pretty sure that Halo's going to make December 6th or December 8th. December 8th.
I'm just trying to jinx it to annoy you.
I mean, it would be just like Microsoft to announce the date of Halo Infinite and then delay it like a couple weeks later. That would be so on point for what is going on with this game. For 343 to do that would be funny. But you knew Dying Light 2 was going to get delayed as soon as Halo picked the next day, like the day after. Like, you knew Dying Light 2 was going to be like, yeah, you know what? No. And then they go to February, but February's packed right now because you got, like, Horizon Forbidden West and Saints Row and a bunch of other games in February.
No one cares about Saints Row, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's no overlap between Dying Light and Saints Row.
I'm just saying, a game, still they're games competing against each other for your money and your time. So even, all those games, someone buys one of them, they may not have enough money to buy the other. But at least when Dying Light comes out, as my buddy Gaz said, at least they'll have co-op. So. Faisal says, are there third-person story-driven games, unannounced games, and fighting games? Jez, are there any third-person story-driven games?
Well, Gears.
I mean, yeah, Gears.
There's one game that technically counts as third-person. Does it count as third-person if you can switch between first and third-person?
I don't know. It's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know.
Does it count?
I don't know if that counts. Maybe it does.
No matter what you're into, except for maybe fighting games, I'm pretty sure you're going to be catered for. Maybe not sports games either. I mean, I've been digging and digging. I really hope. I always hope that one day I'll find like, oh, by the way, this is the new Killer Instinct project. But I still don't think they're working.
I'm waiting for you to find that in all these project names that you get. Like, but, I found it, Rand. It's Project Eternal, and it's Killer Instinct 2 or something,
Project Eternal. That'd be a weird code name for Killer Instinct.
I don't know.
It'd be called Project Ultratech, surely, or something cool like that.
No, because that would...
Codenames are always that dumb.
I mean, Fable was what? Project Holland? What does Holland got to do with Fable?
God knows.
I mean...
Codenames are so weird, like... What did they just choose? Like, I need to ask someone who works in that kind of industry. How do they choose code names? Because like for a while, I thought I'd worked out a pattern for Xbox code names. It felt like they were all named after like types of lizard. Like you had the Chuck Waller and stuff like that. But then they went weird with like Scorpio and then we had Scarlet and then we had Anaconda. It's just no consistency, man. But I suppose that's the point of a code name, isn't it? So you can't work out what it is. I suppose if something was codenamed Project Ultratech, you'd probably know that it was Killer Instinct related, right? I don't know, but it's all fun and games. But basically, long story short, I think like no matter what you're into, Microsoft is trying to find something to cater to your niche, except for the fighting game. Oh yeah, man!
Except for
that's gonna be painful for a long time. Like Microsoft's gonna like address every single concern that every Xbox fan has, but there's always gonna be something. There's always gonna be like, okay, what have you done for me lately? Like they'll have like an amazing lineup of games, and they'll be like, yeah, but where's Killer Instinct? And then like they'll bring us Killer Instinct, and then someone's gonna be like, yeah, but where's Blink's new Blink's game?
Yeah, but where's Banjo? Where's Banjo? Yeah.
There's always going to be something. We're a demanding community, right, guys?
Yes, very. Jacqueline says, Jez, are you ready to debunk the Platonic on Viva Pinata and Roundhouse on Planet of the Apes? They've been making the Reddit rounds.
I have literally no idea about those. I haven't heard anything at my end, so can't confirm or debunk, I'm afraid, on that one.
Right.
That would be cool, though.
Eternal Umbra says, Yo, Rand and Jez, with this acquisition talk, if given the power, tell us the one publisher you guys would personally pick Microsoft to acquire and why. I already know Jez's answer to this one. It's Capcom. So, why? Because Monster Hunter, right? Am I wrong on this one, Jez, or am I right?
Monster Hunter is, in my view, the IP with the most untapped potential right now. That IP could be as big as Pokemon if someone with the vision to make it happen was running it. They are wasting that IP right now, I think. But yes, Capcom, and then they can give me a new Breath of Fire. We can have a new Dragon's Dogma. We get Street Fighter. Capcom's a perfect acquisition, and also Japan. But what's yours, Rand? I know what you're gonna say, Rand.
Oh, okay. So what am I gonna say? What do you think my pick is?
You're gonna say, I don't know.
You don't know. I thought you knew me.
I don't know. I was trying to think of a publisher that makes exclusively sad dad simulator games, but they couldn't buy Sony, right?
I mean, of course they could, but I
don't know. There might be antitrust
things
going down in that situation.
True.
But would you buy Ubisoft, Rand? Just to get your Splinter Cell
I probably would have bought. Yeah. I mean, buying Ubisoft just so I can have Phil greenlit a Splinter Cell game is one of my top wishes. You know what? Screw it. If Ubisoft's not going to make a Splinter Cell game, God damn it, Xbox is going to buy them and be like, all right, now you can make a Splinter Cell game. But my stock or my view on Ubisoft has gone down in recent years. I used to be a big fan of them when their games were actually all different from one another. Now, essentially, all their games are almost the same exact thing. So
yeah, I used to really like Ubisoft. Sorry, but nowadays it's just like, what would be the point of buying them?
And they got a lot of IP and a lot of studios, a lot of employees. I mean, if the point is to have games for Game Pass, I mean, Ubisoft does put out a good 2 to 3 games a year, don't they? So,
I guess, but it feels like Microsoft's trying to fill like niches and stuff like that. I don't know.
Then I think mine for me would probably be Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers.
But just the game studios, though.
I mean, in my perfect world, they come with the a 25-year licensing agreement for like the Batmans and the DC stuff. You know what I mean?
I guess. I mean, it's funny. Like I had people in my DMs talking about like studio acquisitions and what they'd like to see, and I recently spoke to someone who was like, they should buy Warner Brothers and like make a streaming service to compete with, Apple and on the TV front, because Apple's doing its whole like TV thing right now, and obviously Sony has its movies division and stuff like that, and its music division. Could it be that entertainment ends up being Microsoft's Achilles heel in the end? That'd be funny, right?
Yeah, especially that would be that'd be interesting. Like, entertainment stuff, and that's kind of what Sony's angling for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, remember when Microsoft was like all about TVs and stuff, and now it seems PlayStation's the one who's actually going to beat them to the TV punch with the Last of Us TV show and a Twisted Metal TV show and some other TV shows they're making. It just seems like Xbox tried doing it, and I mean, hell, the Halo TV show still isn't out yet, and what is that coming out next year? And that was announced like
supposedly
in 2013, and everybody was
I've got this sinking feeling that the Halo TV show is just going to be an atrociously expensive flop.
Probably, I could totally see that, but and then you have Sony working with HBO on Last of Us, which will probably means the Last of Us TV show is going to be a quality viewing experience, because that's what HBO excels at. So it's just funny, after all this time, like, basically Sony starts doing exactly what Microsoft's plans were in 2013 with the whole movie and TV stuff. So yeah, we'll talk about this more, the acquisition things, but personally I would pick Warner Brothers, but there's bigger fish out there that I'm sure other people would take. Sin Vendetta says, so Microsoft is acquiring everyone now, laughing out loud. Yeah, that seems to be the case. Let's see what we got here. Trey Duke says, Rand, what do you have to say about the Scalebound rumors? Scalebound's dead. It's a dead game. It's never coming back. It was canceled for a reason, a good reason, and yeah, I don't. I mean, Jez, come on. How many times have we talked about this on the show?
Maybe we should change the name of the podcast to Scalebound is Dead podcast.
Yeah. Scalebound is
dead. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. It's never coming back, guys. It is so dead that it's like it's beyond decomposed. It's a skeleton, and there's like the bones have turned to dust. Like in Indiana Jones, where they all melt and then they get disintegrated at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That is Scalebound. It's gone. Let it rest in peace.
Yeah.
Let it rest, guys. Move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
I had to move on from Windows Phone, man.
Yeah,
Scalebound. I can move on from Windows Phone. You guys can move on from Scalebound.
Scalebound is dead, guys. Just it's okay. You don't need to think about it anymore. It's never coming back. I know people wanted to, and I think it was in those NVIDIA leaks, which is why it started to come back up again. But game's dead.
What would you do? What would you do if they announced it next week? Now, after we said that,
I'd be like, well, I guess I was wrong. It wouldn't be the first time. It won't be the last time.
Yeah, like at the Tokyo Game Show, like Hideki Kazuya walks out and he's like, by the way, Scalebound is back. It's so funny.
Yeah. Raul says, you guys are the best. Thank you for your work, guys. Well, thank you for being here and for your support and the super chat. Me and Jez really appreciate it. So, I take it, obviously, you weren't playing much on your vacation besides Sea of Thieves on a pirate ship in the ocean. You mostly been chilling. So, you want to know what I've been playing, Jez?
Sure, man. Does it rhyme with Meth Troop?
Meth Troop?
Deathloop. Is it Deathloop?
Yeah. Faisal says, Sanderson's Stormlight Archive is fire, Rand. Read it next. It is on the list. No, I played Artful Escape. You know this game, right, Jez?
It's I just remember it being pretty and colorful.
Yeah. It's I'm of two minds on this game. Okay, and it is the footage that is playing throughout the show. Part of me really enjoys it, and part of me really doesn't. And I'm conflicted because, you know me, Jez. I actually am one of those people that enjoy quote unquote walking simulators. Where you hold right or you hold left and you go about doing something where it's not about combat, it's about the story being presented to you. Games like Inside, Limbo, What Remains of Edith Finch, Firewatch, stuff like that. So on that hand, I'm playing this game and it's so cool in the sense of all the different colors and how crazy it gets, with like, the music and the set pieces and the design and the alien worlds. Like, it literally is like lifted from somebody's LSD dream, right? But then there's like what you actually do, and it's, at least when games like, I guess, Inside, you have puzzles to solve. Like, you don't just hold right and that's all you do, right? You have puzzles to solve. You could die and start over, so there's a little bit more to it than that. Artful Escape is just a game where you're just holding right and you're holding X to shred. And even though it's crazy and like amazing looking with all the different colors and the different like landscape you're going across, I guess, I don't know. I ended up getting kind of bored after a bit.
Yeah, I think like walking simulators and those kind of experience kind of games, they walk a very fine line between being interesting and just being boring. I think.
Well, it's weird
Like,
because I usually I don't get bored by those types of games, and like even the story's cool. Like the voice acting's great. It's all about like discovering yourself, and
mm,
like the music is excellent. But like the idea of just like, all right, I'm gonna hold right and hold X as I'm walking through this level, so the guitar, you're shredding on the guitar, right? And things pop up in the background, and it all looks super cool. But there's no skill based anything. There's no like, oh well, I need to solve this puzzle or jump over this thing or whatever. It's kind of just super easy, and I know that's what the game is, but I wanted to love the game. Like, I really did. I sat there and I'm like, I really want to love this game. And I understand why, a lot of people gave it 9s. Some people gave it 10s, and it's highly rated on Metacritic. But I don't know. Something about it really I just sat there and I was just like, man, I don't know. Like, playing the game for 3 to 4 hours and just holding right while holding X and just going through this stuff just wasn't enough for me, which is, like I said, strange because I enjoy those type of games. So, yeah, it's just, I don't know what else to say about it. It was a mixed experience for me. Part of me loves it because of how out there it is and how this is someone's like dream game, and they clearly poured everything they had into it with, the whole rock persona and the crazy stuff you do when you're just sliding down and all the cool things that happen. But then part of me is just like, this is just boring. And I don't like being bored when I'm playing something. So I had those two conflicting emotions like hit me, where it's like, I'm impressed by what I'm seeing, but like but what I'm doing isn't clicking with me, and it's not fun to play. You know what I mean? So that's my take on the Artful Escape. I know Colt really likes it. But that's how I feel about it. It's got some like when you just watch it, it's like it's got some cool moments, but I think it's a little bit too long for its own good, and I wish there was more you could do than just hold X and do basically Simon Says in like the boss battles where it flashes what colors you need to hit or what buttons, and you just do it. Like there's not much there, but it is on Game Pass.
I was just gonna say, Rand, it does not sound like my kind of game.
No, I mean, you should check it out just to see what I'm talking about.
It's in Game Pass.
Yeah, it's in Game Pass.
Okay.
So just to kind of just see what I'm talking about, and you probably understand exactly what I mean then. But yeah, Batnap says Scalebound is dead, everyone, but Phantom Dust lives. Okay.
That's Miles' alt account.
Is it? Is that Miles? Batnap?
Nah,
Batnap.
I'm just trolling. Miles loves Phantom Dust. Like,
yes,
he's a big Phantom Dust guy. But Snowbike Mike just joined your channel.
Snowbike Mike with the rejoin. Appreciate that, Mike. Hope you're doing well. Mike. My birthday was a couple weeks ago, right? And everybody wished me happy birthday, and it was great. Like, all the amount of tweets and people DMing me really touched me. And I will say that Snowmike Mike, he honestly made me cry, dude. Like, not cry, like tears, like started like welling up, because Mike actually sent me like a 2.5 minute video recorded message about what I mean to him. And I've never like had that before where someone did that to me or for me. So like that truly meant a lot to me. So thank you, Mike. I told you how much it meant to me. You're amazing. And yeah, like honestly, like I never had anybody do that, and I was just like, Mike is just truly a very special and great person.
Giving me the feels, man. Giving me the feels.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, because it was just like I'm just a regular dude. I like reading my books, playing my video games, talking about Xbox, and all the love that people showed me, and then getting a personalized video message from him was just like, wow, like I have touched people in a way where they care, which is it's not something I ever thought would happen. So, Steven, was that Boxy says, speakers, soundbar, headphones, or other? What are your preferences? Jez, what do you use?
I got space issues. Like my friend has a soundbar, and I'm really jealous. And I always think, like, man, I'd really like a soundbar, but I literally have no space for it. Like, I really, really need to get my own place. But yeah, I need money for that. So, I would like to have a soundbar. I really like soundbars. My friend's got one. I'm very jealous. So I just generally just use a TV. Sadly, what do you use, Rand?
I use headsets. I used to be just about like the speaker TVs, and I used to be in a party with people who used the soundbar, and you could hear it blaring through their headsets. So I just like hated soundbars because of how it ruined parties sometimes. And then I ended up getting a headset, and that's all I use now. Like I use headset with Dolby Atmos. I can't like use speakers anymore. It's like headset for everything. So, I use Turtle Beach headsets. I use Astro headsets. I've used like HyperX's. I'm trying to think what other ones I know you're the headset master. You review them all for Windows Central.
I could build a house. Maybe I should just build a house out of all the boxes of headsets.
I
use heads. I do like headsets if I'm gonna get sweaty and I'm gonna play Call of Duty or Battlefield or something. But like if I'm just playing a single player game, I just use the TV generally.
See, I like just to be immersed in stuff. So I put on my headset and I just crank up the volume, and you don't hear anything else in the world, and you're just in the game with the headset on, So yeah, but headsets for me now. If you would have asked me this, like, I don't know, before 2015, I would have said speakers on the TV. But I started using headsets around 2016. Now I'd be like, no, get a good pair of headphones, and you won't regret it. So,
what headphones do you use mainly at the moment? For Xbox?
I've been using the A50s and switching. Sometimes I'll use the Turtle Beach Recons, depending on what controller I'm using.
Fair.
I also have the Xbox wireless headset, the one that they made, which I don't particularly like very much. I just use it for backup in case one of my other headsets isn't charged,
Yeah, the sound on the the sound on the Xbox wireless headset is not great. But for the features you get for $100 are pretty good, but the sound quality is not my favorite. I really dig the Corsair HS75 XB. They are like really big speakers and they sound really good.
Shout out to Shallon for the super chat. Appreciate it. T.Tucker says, currently on a 1440p 240 hertz for PC and the Series X, will there be a big difference going up to 4K 120 hertz for the Series X? Well, you're already doing higher on frame rate on the PC, so you actually would be going lower. I think
what is that a good trade-off? 4K 120 hertz or 1440p higher? I mean, I think at that point it depends how close you sit into the TV and how big your TV is. At that point, I think.
Yeah.
If you're sitting right on top of it, I would just stick with 1440p monitor anyway. But if you're sitting a little bit further away, a big 4K TV is really, really nice.
But then again, there aren't many 4K 120 hertz games on the Series X. I don't think there's any. You like that do 4K. I mean, yeah, like if you have a TV that can do 4K 120, sure you can get it. But most of the games on Xbox that run at 120 frames certainly don't come anywhere close to 4K.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
I mean, they
aren't many
1080p or something like that. So you're almost with what you have there. You're probably better just sticking with 1440p 240 for the PC. Honestly, Foreskin of Exodia says, outside of Halo and Gears, why is this difficult for Xbox to franchise their games? With every sequel that amounts for the PS5, Xbox really only has Halo Infinite and Hellblade 2. I mean, that was a problem during the Xbox One generation. A lot of their studios, or a lot of the games they did make, ended up not getting sequels for various reasons. We know why. There won't be a Sunset Overdrive 2, because Sony owns Insomniac now. Rise, Crytek owned the IP, and they couldn't come to an agreement. Recore, Jez, what do you think there wasn't a sequel to Recore? It didn't sell well. I mean, they even did a definitive edition for Recore. usually you do definitive editions for games that you're gonna revisit in the future, but it definitely seems like ReCore is a franchise that was just one singular game and then done. Is it because like nobody bought it, nobody cared? The only one that really got sequels was Ori, and even still, like Ori got one sequel, and that, and and I think they're probably ending the franchise with that one. So like it was basically a generation for Xbox where anything new they started didn't get sequelized, where a lot of PlayStation games did, and there's many different reasons for that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem moving forward. As Jez says, there's tons of things in the works. Avowed does well. There'll probably be Avowed 2. We already know there's an Outer Worlds 2, like you said, Hellblade 2. Many different projects that potentially could be sequels, and since Xbox then owns these studios instead of hiring out for a second party, there's a greater chance that there will be a continuation of the franchise, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it always just comes down to the margins at the end of the day. Like if ReCore like cost more to make and market than it actually made back, or the margins were really, really low or really poor, then it just sort of it comes to a point where it's like, do we really want to push for a sequel on this kind of thing? Personally, I think ReCore was a compelling enough franchise to potentially explore a sequel, but I think like the sequel would have had to have been so much higher quality to really sort of push past the stigma the original generated, that it probably wouldn't have been. You're just increasing the risk at that point, So it's tough to get like a game noticed. I mean, we were talking about Psychonauts 2 earlier, right? Psychonauts 2 is like got really high praise, great accolades, arguably the best game Double Fine's ever made, and it's probably not going to sell that well just because like it's kind of a genre that people aren't super interested in, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to cut through all the service games, your Fortnites, especially when you're marketing a game for like younger audiences. Maybe it's not easy making games these days, or ever really, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just hard to cut through, and I think a game like ReCore would have a really tough battle to cut through everything.
Yeah. Let's see here. What we got? Sin Vendetta says, all this talk about the Artful Escape makes me think of the last night and the fact that it hasn't come out yet. And the Glitch Soccer says, good evening, gentlemen. I don't mind Shakespeare barking. Please don't mute the mic, Rand. Well, I mute the mic because I know people don't like that, and he has a very, very powerful bark, and I know everybody can hear it. So when he does go crazy, I always try to have Jez talk so I can mute the mic, and hopefully he ends up shutting up by the time Jez is done talking. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. But Jez, I seem to be the only person playing Deathloop. It definitely seems this is this weird situation where PlayStation fans aren't playing it, even though they're the ones who say that they support devs. But make sure you support devs and buy the games or whatever. They're not playing it because it's an Xbox Game Studio game, and whatever sequels are essentially going to come for that aren't going to come to PlayStation. And Xbox fans are like, well, I'm not going to buy it on PlayStation either because I don't own a PlayStation, or two, I know it's coming to Xbox in a year, and it's probably going to be on Game Pass day one. So I feel like I'm the only one playing it. It's weird. Like, there was great reviews for it, right? Like 90 reviews on Metacritic, one of the highest rated games of the year, 88 or whatever it is. Brand new IP from Arcane, which is tough in these days to get really high reviews on something brand new. And it doesn't really seem like anybody's playing it very much.
Man, I was talking to someone in the industry about this, and like, I actually think one of the issues with Deathloop is it's such a unique concept. How the hell do you market it?
Yeah.
Like, you can't really say it's a shooter. I mean, it kind of is.
I mean, yeah.
But it's kind of not. It's kind of more
it's
like
whatever
almost
you.
like
it's whatever you want it to be.
game.
It is.
It's got multiplayer, but it's not really a competitive multiplayer game. It's not a co-op game. It's so hard to explain, and I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I was someone who, I was I was aware of Deathloop, but it wasn't a focus for Windows Central because it's not coming to Xbox until next year. So like there have been people in the team who are interested in it, and they were following it. And I was sort of letting them take point in it. So like I was just sort of getting the sort of surface level marketing experience. Like I was watching the trailers and stuff like that. But it's not until I actually played it that I actually understood what the hell it was. I think Deathloop might see a lot more traction once it does hit Game Pass. Because then it's sort of like, well, I'll try it, right? I'll try it and then I'll understand what it is. But my God, like it is not an easy game to explain, especially in marketing. And I think I don't think the marketing for Deathloop was very good at all. Like,
I mean, it was it was literally at every PlayStation showcase, every event. There was a new trailer for Deathloop, But no,
how do you explain it though? How do you explain the game in a sort of in a quick way that someone will understand? Like, what is the hook of Deathloop?
I think you'd
have.
Is
it the exploration? Is it the executing dudes? Like, is it stealth? Like, I haven't really stealthed that much in it either. I've just been running around kicking people off cliffs and stuff. Like, it is a hard game to explain, and I honestly think Prey fell victim to this too. I think a lot of people looked at Prey's marketing and thought, oh, this is BioShock. I honestly think a lot of people went into Prey expecting BioShock, but you can't run and gun in Prey either. You have to approach it almost like a puzzle game too. Like, especially at the start of the game, there are enemies that you just can't kill head on. You have to lure them into like gas pipes and blow them up and stuff like that. You can't run and gun. Like the first gun you get in the game shoots clay, and you can make like clay barriers and stuff. And it's a weird game. It's another weird game. How do you explain Prey to someone like, honestly, I didn't even really know the term immersive sim until I'd played Prey. And like someone was explaining to me, oh, this is an immersive sim. And I was like, what do you mean? It's not a simulator. And I'm like, oh, like Deus Ex. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a genre. I just thought that was like, shooter, but with vents, something like that. It's weird, man. Some of these games that Arcane are making are just a bit strange, and I honestly think Dishonored did the best because it was just like, yeah, it's a stealth game. I get that.
Yeah, it's a stealth game with the story. Oh, Prey, you're in a spaceship and there's or you're in a space station. There's aliens to fight, right?
Yeah.
This one, yeah, it's a little bit tough to explain because what it is at its core, and I beat the game, put about 12 hours into it. Is that it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle game with shooting that you also you can shoot in stealth through. Like at its core, you know what it reminded me of? A lot of the things you do in that game are almost very reminiscent of when you would play Call of Duty Zombies and you would try to go for the Easter egg. There'd be like secret things you'd have to do to get it done.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that they would do in those Easter eggs in Call of Duty Zombies that Arcane's doing here. So the setup of the game is you're stuck in a time loop, right? So you basically start the day over every single time, whether or not you finish a full day, and there's 4 time periods: noon, afternoon, which is weird, or it's like morning, then noon, then afternoon, and then evening. And there's only 4 maps. So I think people are kind of taken aback by only 4 maps and like you have to replace. I don't like roguelikes or roguelites or whatever it is, but it's not really a roguelite.
Yeah.
It's not at all. Not in the traditional sense of like Hades or anything like that,
I thought it was because of the repetition. I thought, oh, this is the roguelike but it's not. It's confusing, man.
It's not, but some people, they'll see that, oh, you start over a loop, they immediately think roguelike. And like, yes, in the beginning, you do lose trinkets you get to make your character more powerful, or any of the perks you can put on your weapons, right? Like, you lose all that stuff. So when you start the day over, but it's only in the beginning, because once you progress, you get like Residium, which is this power, this like I don't even know what you call it, like a currency that you find scattered throughout the levels. And then once you have enough, you can actually infuse it into any weapon, any ability, like Shift, where you basically teleport like you do in the Dishonored games. A lot of the abilities you have in this game are also abilities you would have in Dishonored. Any of the character trinkets to make you better, like give you more health, you then infuse it, and you always have that gun, that ability, that trinket for future playthroughs. So while in the beginning it may seem like it's a roguelike, it really ends up not being. And what it is a puzzle game. But also it has Arcane's, like all of the things that Arcane is known for. Their great art style, their hilarious writing. Some of the stuff when you listen to it is just really funny. You got the stealth straight from Dishonored, or you can basically go guns blazing. And it's one of the few games that I felt that you could do either. It does either, like, it does both well. Like, there'd be times where I would go through a level and I would completely try to do it silently and stealthily. And then other times I'm like, you know what, I don't really want to sneak around. I'm just running to my objective and I'm just going to use my shotgun, you know? So it really fits well to both playstyles depending on how you want to do it. And the setup to the game is that to beat it, you have to kill all the visionaries, like these bosses essentially, on each of the maps. You have to kill all of them in one day. So there's 4 maps, and there's 4, there's morning, there's afternoon, there's noon, and there's evening. You have to kill all 7 of the visionaries in one go. But when you first start playing it, you can't kill all the visionaries in one go because some of them are in the same maps at the same time, and you can only pick to go to one map at one time. So the whole point of the game is trying to figure out and puzzle your way to make one character who would normally show up in the morning here at this map to actually end up showing up at night at this map. And you'll be going back and through each of the levels multiple times trying to, reading clues on computers or just puzzling things out to eventually, when you have it all figured, all done out, you can basically kill everybody in one go. So it's a puzzle game, but like you said, that's so hard to get across in marketing, because I don't think people want to be like, oh, what is? Oh, it's a puzzle game. Like people are like, well, I ain't getting my $60. I want to shoot. I want to stabby stab. I want to kick people off the cliffs. I want to use my abilities to shift everywhere. And right, so I understand now why Bethesda sold this game to PlayStation. Like playing through it and realizing how hard this game would be to market and how just unique it is. This game probably worried the shit out of Bethesda. They're probably like, the game's great, but this game isn't going to sell. Because most of those Arcane games really don't sell particularly well. Dishonored, Prey, I don't think sold very well. So they're probably thinking to themselves, man, if we're going to have another underperforming game from Arcane, we might have to shut them down. Like, okay, well, Sony's looking for titles for the PS5. We'll sell it to them. And I totally understand why they did it after playing through the game. Because not only, one, it's a great game because it's Arcane, but 2, because I don't think Bethesda themselves had any hope that this game would be like a actual like commercial success. So they took the money. But it's if I had to rate it, I don't understand the 10s. I really don't. Because I think IGN gave it a 10, and I think GameSpot gave it a 10. I saw a bunch of 10s, and I just don't agree with that. And if I had to place it among the other games from Arcane, I would probably still put it at the lower end. But even the lower end Arcane game is better than most games that come out. Like, I think Dishonored and Prey are better, but only slightly. Like, I do think Deathloop is more unique, but you know what I mean?
It's sort of like a smaller project while they work on Redfall, almost, maybe?
I don't think this is a small project, though.
Fair enough.
I really don't think so. I don't think it's a small project.
Is it a game with replay value though? Like
Um,
once you know all the methods, like
yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, you can continue to do the loop, but like, I mean, not really, unless you want to like try out different abilities. Because you know how like in a roguelite everything's randomized, but that's the thing in this game it's not. Like everything in the morning will be in the same spot it is every single time you play it.
yeah.
Like everything, characters, they all go through the same patterns every single time. Um so yeah, it's only one of those things where it's I mean it has the multiplayer aspect where you could invade somebody's game as Juliana. Whenever
Have you
Colt
done
is
that?
Yeah, I've done that. And it's nothing to write home about. It's cool at first, but I wouldn't consider like wanting to do that as the replay value. It is interesting because when you're playing as Colt and you're going after the visionaries, Juliana can invade, and I guess the thrill is that you're killing somebody, and you as the invader only get one life, while the host has three lives. The game's also ridiculously easy, by the way. Anybody who's worried about like difficulty, it gives you literally 3 lives per map, and the AI is not the greatest. I mean, everybody dies by a headshot, and like I had a silenced pistol, so like I just literally would just, headshot people from far away and just go about my business. It almost was like I felt bad because I would be trying to do my things in the maps, trying to puzzle out what I needed to do, and then a Juliana would invade, and she would kill me, and then I have to start the day over. So I kind of felt bad when I would invade as Julia because I would essentially be ruining someone else's progress, where like they might be trying to do something to continue the story.
That's fun.
And then, well, yeah, I know, but I kind of feel like an asshole, So
Maybe I'll like that. That probably comes more naturally to me.
yeah.
But like, I don't know. But it's like you say, even a bad arcane game is still pretty good.
Well,
right?
it's not a bad arcane game. It's just I just think Prey and Dishonored are better.
Yeah,
This is
fair
definitely like a super unique experience. It's just I didn't expect it to be a puzzle game because that's exactly what it is.
Did you ever play Death of the Outsider?
Actually, no. I own the game and I have not played Death of the Outsider yet.
That's supposed to be really good.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just like Dishonored 1 and Dishonored 2, which are both great games. So, yeah.
I haven't even finished Dishonored 2 yet.
So I guess like if you like Arcane, check this out. I mean, I guess most people are going to wait till next year to play it on Game Pass and Xbox. So, I guess we'll talk about it again a year from now when people actually consider and actually want to play it, I suppose.
Maybe they'll add like, I don't know, updates and new features, stuff like that to make it a bit more replayable.
Yeah, maybe. Athiel says, what Sony does really well is make games that appeal to the casual fan base who follow popular culture. Like Spider-Man, I think Xbox would really benefit from having a game based on pop culture. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. Spider-Man says, I pre-ordered the Halo Razer Pro headset. Jez, is it good for its price range? Everybody hit that like button. Yeah, make sure you guys are enjoying the show. Hit the like button. About that Razer, like Halo Razer headset, if it's good. Let
me just quickly check it out. Read another super chat while I look at this.
That's it. I gotta give a shout out to the one and only Darge Knight. What's going on, buddy? But yeah,
oh, it's a Razer Kyra Pro. Yeah, I think the Razer Kyra Pro is a pretty good headset for how much it costs. I'm actually gonna review one soon. But like the spec sheet looks pretty good, and Razer generally makes good stuff. So, but I'll have a proper review of that soon, anyway.
So, yeah. With all that
I'm gonna hit Deathloop at some point. But
yeah, you're playing on PC, right?
Yeah, I was playing on PC a bit.
I hear it's got some problems on PC, some stuttering stuff.
I didn't have any issues on PC, but I don't know if that's because I didn't sign into the Bethesda account. Maybe signing into the Bethesda account makes it stutter or something. But I didn't have any stuttering problems, but I I don't know. Maybe it's a certain map that's stuttering. I don't know. I don't know. It was alright for me anyway.
Yeah. So let's talk about some cool things here. Let's talk about these Xbox leaks, Jez. So Nvidia, I don't know. Nvidia had a whole. Someone went into like what Nvidia's servers or something and pulled a whole bunch of list of names of games that might be real or might not. Even though I think a lot of them are because they were using code names for Xbox titles like Project Typhoon and Project Holland and Project Woodstock and stuff, right? So like,
Yeah.
you knew that was real, and they listed a whole bunch of PlayStation games coming to PC, which isn't a surprise because we've been saying that was the plan forever. And Jim Ryan said, "Hey, there's a whole bunch of games coming, the whole slate coming to PC." They just ended up announcing Uncharted 4 coming to PC during their own showcase. But there was a couple newer kind of code names, Project Cobalt, Project Indus, that you actually went more in detail on in an article that you know a lot of stuff about. So, what do you think about these Xbox leaks, Jez, and what can you tell everybody about Project Cobalt and Indus?
Well, first of all, like the whole Nvidia leak was hilarious in in a way. Like it had a bunch of games that are real, obviously real, like Project Holland, which is Fable, like you said, Project Woodstock, which I think is Forza Horizon 5, and a bunch of other code names. And then it had some like more interesting things, like Chrono Trigger remake, I think was one, and like a bunch of other stuff. And Nvidia was like, "Oh, these games are speculative." Also, God of War for PC was on there, which is interesting. But I think like it is important to note the fact that for some of these games, developers are using GeForce Now for development in the sort of COVID era. Like they're using the remote play features to test games. So like most games are built for PC initially and then, get ported and stuff. So some games probably aren't real, obviously. So, some of them were speculative, they said, and all that sort of stuff. Um, it's hard to say which is real and which isn't real for the whole thing, but there are games on there that I do know are real. For like example, we talked about Project Cobalt on a previous episode of Xbox Two podcast, I think. Project Cobalt is In Exile's FPS RPG, which they themselves teased on Twitter a couple of months ago, last month, I don't know. In Exile teased FPS RPG. Since discovered is Codename Project Cobalt. Since discovered that it's a steampunk kind of game, and also the concept art that one of the contractors shared on their ArtStation profile, I compared it to some artwork that I saw from the game that hasn't leaked yet, and it's the same sort of thing. So I'm inclined to believe that ArtStation piece is representative of what kind of environments they're going for. It looks like Victorian England almost, like London kind of architecture, a lot of pollution, industrial revolution era. There's like steam engines everywhere. There's like, I saw robots, like steampunk robots, zeppelins, giant zeppelins in the sky with like retro futurism and all this sort of stuff. Very, very intriguing. So that's like Project Cobalt from In Exile. In Exile is like rapidly growing their studio. I was also told that I think Jeff Grubb said that Cobalt was targeting 2023 in an earlier piece. I've heard that Cobalt could go to 2024, depending on how much they expand the scope. I was told that since In Exile was acquired, they've expanded the scope of the game immeasurably. Huge amount with Microsoft's funding. They've grown the studio. They've acquired a bunch of new talent. They're working with a load of contractors as well to build the game. And, it sounds like really awesome, and it sounds like a really ambitious project from In Exile. And maybe we'll see it next year at E3, or maybe we'll see it at the TGAs. Who knows? But that's one thing to look out for.
Were they stealing developers from other companies as well to help build this project?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like typical of the industry in that kind of area. Like people jump around studios a lot, especially artists, like you don't need a concept artist once you go into full production unless you're like working on multiple projects and stuff like that. So what a lot of concept artists do is they'll move from studio to studio, sort of freelancing and stuff like that. From what I understand, it depends. Like obviously different cities have different cultures, right? Um, when it comes to that kind of thing, and every state has its own labor laws too, which also change the way like the developer culture works. But um, but it sounds like it's pretty deep in development, and hopefully we'll see it in the next year or two.
Is this this isn't the only project NXL is working on, correct?
I believe it is.
Oh, it is
It's
the
not.
only one they're working on.
Now they're shipping the last DLC for Wasteland 3 next month, and then I think it's full steam ahead on Cobalt. I don't think they have another project. Maybe they do, but I don't think they do right now. If they do, it's in like pre-production or whatever.
So what is your hype level for Project Cobalt then? 0 to 10. If you had to put a number on it now with the things that you know and everything.
It's quite high, like an 8 or 9, I think. I'm intrigued to know whether it's like a full-blown RPG where you make your own character and stuff like that, and all that kind of stuff. Or if it's going to be sort of like more like BioShock, where it's like a set character and a set story. Like, is it gonna go full-blown RPG where you have like decisions to make and stuff like that, or is it just going to be sort of like, where you get XP and level up, and it's sort of like a softer RPG? Is it going to go full Fallout, or something more like BioShock? I'm interested to know some of the more details, but the environment seems really cool. Like, steampunk's not the most explored genre, and also like if they're taking a lot of inspiration from Victorian era London and the Industrial Revolution in England and stuff, I'm interested in that because I'm from the West Midlands where the Industrial Revolution started. So there's a lot of that in my culture, from England and stuff. So I'm interested for that reason too. But yeah, In Exile, a great dev. Wasteland 3 is amazing. The writing is hilarious and oftentimes shocking. Some of the stuff that happens in Wasteland 3 is amazing and subversive. So I'm pretty excited for Cobalt. And there was another Codename in the NVIDIA GeForce leaks, Rand, called Codename Project Indus, which is actually the codename that made me think the leak was real, because I first got information about Indus all the way back in April, and I was kind of like, well, if I'm pretty sure nobody else knew about this codename in the rumor mill. I never saw this spoken about anywhere from anyone. I never heard anyone tease it. So when I saw like Indus in that list, I was like, oh wow, this is legit, So Project Indus, Rand, I don't think this is your kind of game. Personally.
Doesn't sound like it.
No, so like this is one for Civilization fans. It sounds like Indus is a 4X strategy game with a turn-based simultaneous turn resolution gameplay. So like basically you expand an empire. I believe there's like going to be tiles and stuff. You position your units and then go to war. It's that's what it sounds like. Jeff Grubb, I think, shared on a podcast that Oxide Games, the devs who are making it, Oxide made Ashes from the Singularity, I think it's called, which is a pretty popular RTS. They are poaching Civilization devs to make this game, so that sounds pretty exciting to me. Like, I love Civilization. I had to force myself to stop playing Civilization because it is that addictive. So that's Project Indus. But there was also a bunch of other games that I became aware of recently. Mojang's working on a couple of Minecraft games in addition to Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons. There's also, like, I've heard that they're working with a bunch of indie games, on indie studios on smaller projects from all sorts of niche genres and stuff. I heard, like, there's side-scrolling beat 'em up on the way. I heard Microsoft's working on a MOBA based on an existing IP, which I'm not going to leak that right now, but but there is a sort of like a casual sort of MOBA based on an existing Microsoft IP in the works too. There's there's what else is there? There's just so much. I'm starting to struggle to keep track of all the games that are on the way. It's like absurd how many games are on the way. So, it's a good time, man. It's a good time. Good time to be an Xbox fan, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Project Indus, it doesn't. A Civilization type game isn't something that appeals to me. I know, like, it does have its niche, probably PC focused. And
I think like Jeff Grubb said that he'd heard Indus was being made for PC, but I've seen documents that say it's coming to Xbox too, and I think like Civilization lends itself well to Xbox and controller play. Civilization works really well on Xbox because it's turn-based and stuff, and it even works on cloud very well because it's turn-based and stuff. In fact, Civilization was one of the first games I played on console streaming because I wanted to test it out. So, I think that's a cloud play, right?
Yeah.
And also, there's like Kojima's game that's supposed to be on the way, and there's like I've heard there's also another cloud native game being worked on, MMO kind of thing with another independent studio. Man, there's just so much. There is so much to keep track of. Like when Microsoft really ramps up into like next year and the year after, it's just going to be nonstop, man. It's going to be nonstop. Truly.
Yeah. Why hasn't anybody leaked what Compulsion's doing? Is what I want to know.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, interesting.
What?
I
don't know.
The way you said that was almost like you knew.
I don't know anything.
Because that is the one studio where I'm like, okay, let's see what you're doing. Like, I had my doubts about them because I played their games, and I'm like, I don't know about that. And it's just like, I wonder what they're working on.
I will say that I felt the same way as you about Compulsion until recently.
Ooh, really?
And now I am quite intrigued by what Compulsion's doing. In fact, I was playing We Happy Few earlier today for exactly that reason.
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of want to know what they're doing. It definitely seems Xbox has a ton of projects in the work, more than they probably ever had, which they said so. They said as much before E3 that they had more, games in production than at any time before. So I don't know. It's how much of that Nvidia leak do you think is true? How much do you think is just pure speculation versus like actual things that are going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like when you have like a leak that comes out and it's like, oh, here's a Project Cobalt and Project Typhoon. Like it definitely seemed like whatever they had from Xbox was real. Because how else could they know the code names, right?
Yeah, I think like Xbox might have been using GeForce Now to test some of their games, which is why they all leaked.
Yeah, I mean, they said it was speculative, but it definitely seemed like, I don't know, like a lot of it is going to end up turning out to be true. Yeah, like we all expect God of War to hit PC at some point, as well as most of the PlayStation games.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would they put Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone on PC if they weren't also intending to bring God of War to PC? It's gonna happen. Honestly, I can see like all of PlayStation games going to PC eventually.
Yeah,
like they're just leaving money on the table. They're leaving money on the table, literally. Maybe when like I don't know, maybe when the PlayStation 5, the stocks, the supply issues are gone, and the PlayStation 5 has stopped sort of selling at a huge, massive rate or something, or it's selling at a healthy rate or something or whatever. They're just like, yeah, we'll just start putting these older games on PC now for the extra money, So, but yeah.
John G says Indiana Jones exclusive to Xbox rumors. Yeah, there's a rumor coming from our buddy Special Nick that you replied to, Jez. Where he said that Indiana Jones is now going to be exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah.
And you doubt that. You said you doubted that very much.
Well, that isn't me doubting it. I was told that it's multiplat. I was told Indiana Jones is multiplat definitively by a source I trust very much that has been proven correct time and time again. So I was told Indiana Jones was multi-platform. However, that was quite a while ago now. That was like months ago, I guess, like around E3, maybe before. So there is every chance that Nick has new information and that something's changed. Maybe Microsoft bought Disney out of the contract and maybe it is exclusive now. But I was told previously that it was multi-platform. So I can't like definitively right now say that Nick is wrong, but my information suggests that it's multi-platform. And personally, I just think it makes more sense for it to be multi-platform. Microsoft doesn't have claim to the Indiana Jones IP or leverage even, whereas Sony surely has some leverage over Spider-Man because of the movie rights, right?
I don't think so.
No, I don't mean like they can force Disney to let them do it, but like in terms of having good relations around the IP, I don't know. Maybe they're more willing to collaborate on exclusivity for that IP or something to get more favorable deals for the movie rights to it. I don't know.
Well, okay. So what if it has to do with something along the lines of what PlayStation showed at their showcase, what they led the show off with, which was Knights of the Republic remake being exclusive to PlayStation? What if it was like
a reaction to that?
A tit for tat sort of thing? You know? Because everybody assumed Knights of the Republic was going to be multi-platform, and Sony ended up buying the exclusivity for it, and they're publishing the game, and people, like, I don't think people understand why they're publishing the game in the first place. They're publishing it because Lucasfilm doesn't publish games anymore. Neither does Disney. So they use that's why they make these deals with like Indiana Jones for Bethesda and Midnight Suns with 2K and Sony and Wolverine and Spider-Man 2 with PlayStation. Like they're not a publisher anymore. So unless who's making the game? Aspyr was going to self-publish Knights of the Republic. There's going to be somebody who is going to essentially publish that game. So I think whenever that game does come to Xbox, more than likely I think Microsoft will have to publish that game for Xbox if it does come to it. But I heard people say, Jez, I don't know if this is true, that with that game being exclusive, it sort of changed the deal for Indiana Jones and Xbox then. Like almost like
is that you speculating, or
I had a couple people tell me that, but I don't know if it's true in any sense that like maybe they gave up something to get Indiana Jones exclusive. I don't really know, but
I get. I mean, it's totally possible. At the end of the day, it's just money. At the end of the day, Microsoft could be like, yeah, okay, well, if Sony's going to do this, we're going to get Indiana Jones. But what do you care more about, Indiana Jones or Star Wars?
Well, it depends. Like,
that's not the strongest tit for tat in my view.
Well, the Indiana Jones, I mean, Knights of the Republic remake is a classic. I do have my doubts about the game, considering who's making it. Like, Aspyr really hasn't done much of anything, really, except port games to consoles. They haven't. So, and then you say, well, does the developer really need to be good if you're just remaking a game? And it's like, well, yeah, I think so. I love Machine Games, and I think they'll do Indiana Jones justice. There's just something weird about a former Xbox exclusive going exclusive to PlayStation for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Knights of the Republic was always synonymous with Xbox. And it's interesting because that PlayStation Showcase was almost like, hey, these former Xbox games are on PlayStation now, leading off with Knights of the Republic, and also having Alan Wake remastered at the show. Like, the classic finally comes to PlayStation for the first time, whatever they said, right? I know Knights of the Republic being exclusive to PlayStation really bothers a lot of Xbox fans.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic's one of my favorite RPGs of all time, but I really wasn't bothered about this. And it's because I'm not the biggest fan of remakes because I just feel like they're gonna fuck something up. Like when it's like a story-based game, and you have to remember Disney wants creative control because the rumor is that Disney is gonna explore the Old Republic for Disney Plus, like make TV shows based on the Old Republic, which means that they're gonna change. They're gonna change Knights of the Old Republic. They're gonna. I think they could like soften it or take some of the bite out of it. And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played it because there's a pretty major plot. Probably some of the best plot twists of all time video game history are in Knights of the Old Republic. And like how do you take that and bring it to the modern era? Like, especially a studio that isn't particularly well experienced, like you say. So my as much as I love Knights of the Old Republic, and like I'm a guy who I booked 2 weeks off work to play Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO when that came out because I'm a big KOTOR fan, right? I'm not excited for the KOTOR remake because I just feel like without BioWare and with new writers and modern Disney, I just feel like it's just going to be it's just got a huge potential to be fail, I think. So that didn't bother me so much. But you are right that I did see a lot of people were upset about this, and it did feel like a swipe at Xbox. They were like, "Okay, you get MLB the Show, we're gonna get Knights of the Old Republic," because the whole MLB the Show thing was hugely embarrassing for Sony. Like Forbes wrote about it, and like Forbes, for better or worse, is a very influential outlet in the US. So and Forbes wrote about MLB the Show and Xbox Game Pass embarrassing Sony, which you can bet your ass like they were reading that at the top of Sony, right? So if that's a swipe, fine. But I don't feel like that's a strong argument to pay for Indiana Jones exclusivity because like I don't know, is Indiana Jones like does Indiana Jones have the brand power of Star Wars in 2021? I
No,
don't
of
think so.
course not. Of course not.
Indiana Jones Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones 4 was fucking terrible. It was abysmal. It was horrible. And they're doing an Indiana Jones 5 as well. And I'm just like thinking, man, if that's like the Crystal Skull, it's just going to be another part of fail, right? And while I love machine games, they haven't done a lot outside of, violent shooters. So I sort of like at the same time I'm kind of like is that sort of the banger that you want to spend money on? Because Disney is not going to make that cheap, man. They are not going to make that cheap. Because if especially if Microsoft's doing it in a reactionary way, if Microsoft's like, okay, Disney, we want to buy out this exclusivity, Disney's going to be like, okay, you're Microsoft. I know you've got a load of money, and I know you're desperate to stick one back at Sony, so we're going to charge you $1 billion, million, $1 trillion. So for me, I don't unless like they did a really good deal or something, and I'm just purely speculating here. I don't know if it's like going to be value for money. I don't know, but obviously Microsoft own machine games, and Microsoft could be like to Disney, well, we can make if we don't have to target other platforms, we can make a more impressive game, which helps the identity of your IP because that's ultimately what Disney wants here. Disney wants the video game Indiana Jones to market Disney Plus. That is what the function of that is. Disney like they're not giving you an Indiana Jones game because they want you to be happy. They're giving you an Indiana Jones game because they want to make loads of money, and they have an Indiana Jones movie coming out, and they want that to be popular, and they probably want to make an Indiana Jones TV show for Disney Plus because they want everyone to be subscribed to it because that's how you make money these days is with subscription services. So I just sort of like I don't know. Maybe there is a deal that exists that could make that exclusive. Maybe Microsoft can exert some authority because they own machine games. But I don't feel like Disney's going to make that cheap. I feel like that's going to eat into the profitability of the game for Microsoft too, obviously, because they're going to get royalties presumably on the sales of the PlayStation version of the game. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, wouldn't Disney want Indiana Jones to be on the bigger platform? It's just gonna cost a lot of money, man. So
Well,
I don't know.
sounds like you need to hit up that source that told you it was multi-platform and ask again, see if anything's
Yeah, maybe.
changed.
Yeah, maybe. I
Um,
just right now I don't believe it, but maybe Nick's right. You know, I just feel in my gut that Indiana Jones is multi-platform. Could be wrong. Nick could be right, and Nick's got a pretty decent track record on some of this stuff. So
I
we'll
mean,
have
it's
to wait and
also,
see.
I mean, who even knows when Indiana Jones is even coming out? Like, it sounds like
No.
they're early in production, so we might have to even wait a while before, one, we see the game, and two, when the game actually releases. There's
Yeah.
plenty of time. I always said there was plenty of time that maybe they could restructure the deal. It's not like it was Indiana Jones was due to come out in 2022, you know? Like, there seemed to be plenty of time where things could change. I mean, I was shocked that Knights of the Republic remake was exclusive to PlayStation, but it definitely fits exactly what PlayStation wants to do. They want big brand names exclusive to their console. That's why like the Final Fantasies are exclusive, right? And now you have KOTOR. So I mean, it makes sense from what they're trying to achieve. Nathan has a question for you, Jez. He says, Codename Gravity was also on the Xbox list. Do you know anything?
No, I haven't been out. There was Codename Gravity and Codename Kalimba. I haven't been able to track those down. It's possible that they're the code names of games that I know of that I don't know the code name of, like the Minecraft projects, for example. But I don't know what games those code names are attached to right now. It could be that they're completely new games. It could be that they're games I know about, or it could be that they're some of Nvidia's just speculative made up code names. It's hard to say right now, but I don't know what they mean at the moment.
Made up speculative code names. That's a new one. You think
Well,
it'd be made
just
up speculative
imagine.
games like Chrono Trigger remake, not like a made up speculative project name. You know what I mean?
I have no idea.
Speaking of project name, everyone's idols Goro says thoughts on Arcane Austin's codename Black Sky. Scalzi speculated it was Prey 2.
I don't know. I haven't seen Black Sky either. I think like there's one thing about my information at the moment. Like Bethesda's separate to Microsoft, and Bethesda seems to have better security than Microsoft right now. So it's like a bit harder to get information about Bethesda stuff. So I don't know if this Black Sky thing is even real. I don't know where the Black Sky codename even came from. I could look that up, but I haven't seen anything about Black Sky. Was that in? Okay, Black Sky was in the data leak supposedly. I think like if Black Sky is Prey 2, that's probably, I don't know, a bit obvious of a code name, maybe. I don't know. I hope it is. I just want it to be Prey 2 because Prey 1 is one of the best games ever made.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would love to see a sequel to Prey 2. I don't know. Could Arcane Austin be even working on something considering they're knee deep in Redfall at this point? Maybe like super early pre-production. I don't know.
Pre-production, maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
Gaming Forte says, "What is this trash game you're playing, Rand? Hope you and Jez had a great week. Plus, the only thing Xbox needs to worry about is making great games." Sir, you're talking about the Artful Escape. It's definitely not a trash game. It's just not something that I don't know. I thought I would like it more than I ended up not liking it or liking or whatever. Blue Wave says, so I want to know for sure, but what I heard was KOTOR was timed exclusive. I mean, they basically came out and said it was. Console launch exclusive was the terminology PlayStation used, which always means timed exclusive. And then I believe somebody from the studio said so on Twitter that it's launching on PS5 and PC day one. And maybe eventually coming to Xbox, but who knows? Because Final Fantasy VII Remake 7 has not come out on Xbox just yet. And I mean, who knows if it will? I think it will, probably next year. But it might be some time to wait. Who knows? You know, these sort of deals with Sony, like maybe they got a 2-year deal on Knights of the Republic. But what do you think? All right, did you watch the showcase? You know what? I figured we'll talk about the showcase in a minute because there's some things we need to discuss about it. I guess I might as well talk about these acquisition stuff, Jez, because it just seems like we have to because people are asking, and it's all over Twitter, and it seems like literally everybody thinks they know something about some huge acquisition that Microsoft is about to announce as early as next week. Some people are saying it's Take-Two, and that Microsoft would make Grand Theft Auto 6 an exclusive and put NBA 2K as a Game Pass title, which actually probably would be the right way to go for 2K. You know, Warner Brothers, like buying all of Warner Brothers Discovery and having all that stuff, and Ubisoft, like it's rampant in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. Sure, the acquisition stuff has always comes up all the time, but I don't think it's ever come up this fervently. Because I'm just looking at Twitter now and I see a couple people like mentioning it, like, oh man, the stuff I'm hearing about Xbox with the googly eyes, and it's like, what are you hearing about Xbox? You know what I mean? So I guess I'll ask you before I give my 2 thoughts. As Gaming Forte says, so is disappointing game. Got it. I mean, you play the ultimate disappointing game every single day called Destiny, so I wouldn't. So if you say something's disappointing, make sure you look in the mirror and realize that you play Destiny 2 all the time, Forte, so you know the meaning of disappointment. So, Jez, is there an Xbox acquisition happening next week that will shake the industry? Or is this people just hoping something is happening and trying to sound like they know things?
I haven't heard from any of my trusted sources that there's any major news next week. Does that mean there isn't? Not necessarily. But I personally don't believe that there is anything to these current rumors right now. I don't know where they're all coming from. I think like there was I saw someone say that like it's the 1-year anniversary of the Bethesda deal. Like that matters. Like what Microsoft's going to announce an acquisition on the anniversary every year now? Like how does that make any sense, you know? So I think like there's some sort of like, I don't know, residual hype from like the anniversary of the Bethesda acquisition and stuff like that. But I haven't heard a damn thing. Have you heard a damn thing?
I mean, there's always rumors going around about who Microsoft is talking to. But as far as like something being done already, no. And I don't know, like I caution people because we remember what it was like right before E3, where everybody thought Microsoft was, and I was one of them, I thought Avalanche was acquired for sure, because that is what a lot of people were telling me, and also telling you, was like, Avalanche is in the bag, it's happening, 100%, and we were like, all right, Avalanche sounds like Avalanche is a go, and then there were rumors that it wasn't just Avalanche, it was Ion Interactive, and it was NetherRealm, and it was Rocksteady. You recall that, right? Everybody was positive that there was going to be some acquisition at E3, and then E3 came and went, and there were no acquisitions, and it was like, oh, I guess it's nothing. And all of a sudden, recently, it's like, oh, it's happening again. And I think some of it stems from that the Take-Two CEO and Phil Spencer are having some sort of like talk later in the month, on some website or some podcast or something, right? And then you have a bunch of people out here basically saying nothing but like teasing things in their tweets, right? You have this thing where it's like everybody's trying to say they know something, but they're not willing to say what company it is. And I'm of the opinion that if Microsoft was about to buy let's say Ubisoft or WB or Take-Two, nobody would know about it. Nobody knew about Bethesda. And the only reason me and Jez knew about Bethesda was because somebody called Jez 5 hours before it was announced. Like, you didn't hear any speculation or leading up to the Bethesda announcement that Bethesda was happening. It just happened. Right?
Yeah, this was like these kind of discussions are at the top level. So like it's only when the information starts moving out towards marketing and then you sort of like get blog posts appearing in systems and assets being passed around and people being like, okay, like telling PR we're going to make this announcement soon. That only happens right before it gets announced. I don't think say for example Microsoft were going to buy Take-Two or they were going to buy Ubisoft or they were going to buy someone else, there is no way anyone would know weeks beforehand unless someone at the very top of these companies breaking some serious NDAs. And I don't know why would a company why would someone who was like standing to benefit from the sale of the company directly want to affect the price of stuff, want to affect the deal potentially by leaking it, So I personally don't think. I've heard Microsoft's talking to some smaller studios, like indies and stuff like that. I have reason to believe that there's, a couple of indies that Microsoft might acquire in the next few months, but they're quite small. They're quite small companies, right? A lot of people are talking about like I keep getting DMs about Take-Two and Ubisoft and and all this other stuff, and like last week on the show I said that I'd heard Take-Two would be the next big publisher to sell to a tech company, but that isn't to say that I heard it would be Microsoft buying them. It was just that I'd heard Take-Two might have been looking for a buyer, and that was like coming up to almost a year ago now, like more than half a year ago. And then nothing happened. So I haven't heard anything credible about this. And I think a lot of it is just hysteria. I think a lot of it's hysteria. So, but who knows, man? Maybe I could be completely wrong. And maybe there is a huge acquisition coming. Maybe Warner Brothers is signing the dotted line as we speak. And maybe Warner Brothers is like, yeah, we are now merging with Microsoft, and there's going to be like a Disney Plus competitor from Warner Brothers called Warner Brothers Plus, and you're going to see Batman as the new mascot of Xbox. Maybe that's going to happen. I think a lot of it's wishful thinking too, and a lot of it's starvation for some good news, because it's been a bit dry over the summer, right? After E3, hasn't been a huge amount of interesting news. So. Like the fact that one of my biggest articles of the week was a rumor of a 512 gigabyte card for the Xbox Series S is kind of like telling that people are desperate for any kind of news right now. But I mean, sure, I want to believe these things. I want to believe it's true. I want to see Xbox grow. I want to see all those get the, come under the Game Pass banner. I want to see that stuff happen, but I just don't believe it right now. I don't believe it.
Yeah, Stuff Sean says, what about Stein's tweet? When a meeting leaves you feeling like this, insert Chris Pratt surprise meme. It's funny because I saw comicbook.com put together, this was like, is an acquisition about to be announced? And they had like Stein's deleted tweet, and I think it was like Skullsy's tweet, and a couple other people's tweets. And I even saw like another website use Colt's tweets, and it's funny because I know exactly what Colt's tweets are about, and they're not regarding an acquisition. And I'm pretty sure. And you said you're pretty sure you knew what Stein's tweet was about, right?
Yeah, I don't think Stein's tweet was about an acquisition.
So it's like you see people trying to connect dots where they shouldn't, and they're like, well, this because of this tweet and this. And all this is happening. Like, look, we know that they're going to buy studios. This isn't a surprise. I mean, Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, and Satya basically told investors that they were going to when Satya said, like, they're all in on gaming. I think people... but that's not to say it's going to be a publisher. Like Jez says, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they buy individual studios. They just are getting done integrating Bethesda, and that's a huge process. My whole thing was, I don't think it's happening simply because everybody thinks they know something. When it's that big of a secret and everybody knows about it, I think it's just a lot of wishful thinking, a lot of fan fiction that gets passed around in group DMs on Twitter and talked about in Xbox Live parties. And when people say this, they say, I heard from so-and-so, or I heard from a source. And then it gets completely spread around to everybody. And soon enough, everybody thinks that there is something going on. And I don't really think there is. So I think next week's going to come and go, and there's going to be no acquisition. And I think people will be disappointed again, because you're only setting yourself up for disappointment by expecting things. Now, with that said, I would love to be wrong. I would love to wake up Monday morning at 8 a.m. and see a big blog post, Xbox loves Warner Brothers, or Xbox loves Take-Two, right? Because there's just more studios for Xbox to make games, to put into Game Pass, for someone like me who loves video games. Like, that'd be great. And then I can make a whole bunch of videos about it. Like, Xbox buys Takes-Two. Oh, game, you know what you're going to be seeing about next? Is Grand Theft Auto 6 going to be an Xbox exclusive? You thought the Bethesda exclusivity was tiring and worrisome and just pulling your hair out? Like, what? Stop talking about this. You think that was bad? Imagine if they bought Take-Two. Because then the next thing people will say is, well, Grand Theft Auto, you can't make Grand Theft Auto an exclusive. That's impossible, right? So I'm here for it. Like, I would love for that to happen. But I just don't think it will. I just don't think, like, for a public company, like, you're talking Take-Two is a public company, and so is Xbox. And suddenly everybody knows that the deal's finished and is going to be announced. Maybe there's, like, a Game Pass deal that could happen, and people are just, like, working themselves up into a frenzy to believe it's an acquisition of some kind. So, personally...
But what if, Rand? What if it happens now?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, look, that's the thing. Don't expect anything, and if something happens, awesome. But if, because I see Tando saying now he's deflated, I was so hyped for Monday, right? I'm just saying, like, you're only setting yourself up for disappointment if you're thinking something absolutely amazing and huge is going to happen on Monday. If you go in with the expectation that it's just going to be a regular Monday, and then here's a post by Xbox saying they bought somebody huge, then it's great, because now you're surprised. Now, I don't know how many people are out there on Twitter are expecting something massive, and then when nothing happens, they're going to be upset at Xbox for whatever, right? I mean, how many times have we seen that? People set up their own expectations and get and like, that's why Aaron Greenberg and Xbox, ever since that showcase last year in May, when everybody was disappointed, that's why every single time they've been setting expectations, because they know how fans basically blow everything up to proportions and believe everything. Like, people want to believe in this thing. So, I mean, the truth of the matter is, yes, me and Jez have heard rumors about who Xbox is talking to. There have been rumors for a while. They're big companies, or they were big companies. Xbox, it's not some sort of big news to hear that Xbox is talking to big companies. I just don't think it's going to happen, and I especially don't think it's going to happen next week simply because there's a Bethesda acquisition. But like I said, I would love to be wrong. I would love to wake up and see the salt on the timeline about Xbox buying Take-Two and now owning Grand Theft Auto. Because if you thought Xbox owning Elder Scrolls was bad and being exclusive, you ain't seen nothing yet. But I just don't think it's realistic. I think it's just I think people are trying to will it to happen because they need it to happen. They want it to happen. And honestly, I wish there was more excitement and enthusiasm around games than there is about acquisitions. So many people talk about acquisitions and everything, and they don't. It's a problem in this community. People like to talk about games more than they actually play games. And that extends to this whole talk about acquisitions. There are people on social media who just talk about it constantly, And they have more excitement for the studios that Microsoft might purchase than for actually playing any of the games that Microsoft is actually putting out for many of their studios. It's sort of sad, but it is the sort of the state of that we're in. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. It's like we know the games are coming, so it's kind of like that's on lock, right?
Yeah, but
Don't
but
worry
even
about that.
but even
I
that,
think part of it's defensive, man. Like I don't want to see, for example, I don't want to see Tencent buy Capcom
sure.
and then Tencent, start screwing around with Xbox access to those games. Although, to be fair, Tencent hasn't really shown itself to be hostile to any particular console yet. But Tencent could, and or whatever. I don't want to see. Let's just shoot. I don't want to see Nintendo acquire Capcom, and then we only get like 20 frames per second Monster Hunter games on the Switch, for the next 8 years while we wait for the non-existent Switch Pro. I don't want that to happen. Some of it's almost defensive in a way. Because we are in a sort of we're on a buyer's market. Like everyone's being acquired all over the place, left, right, and center. So I think like for me, some of the excitement about acquisitions is like, oh, good. No, I don't have to worry about losing that game. Like I often think about weird studios, like well, not weird, but like smaller studios. Like I'd hate to see like 11-bit studios get acquired by a competing platform. Because I love 11-bit studios games, and it feels like 11-bit studios is like the sort of size of a studio that might get acquired, and Avalanche maybe. Like, what if Avalanche gets acquired by a competitor? What if we end up in a situation, Rand, like we did with Crackdown 3, where a developer gets acquired in the middle of development, like that CloudGen dev or whatever they were called, and it screws up one of the games that are on the way, Well, and I understand the hype about it,
Sure.
And I think like people play the games and it's more like a personal thing, but they come together to discuss the platform. I don't come on Twitter much. I do share a lot of clips about games on Twitter, but a lot of the discussion revolves around the platform because the platform is the thing we all like. Like I don't care about your walking simulators, Rand.
Mm-hmm.
Your walking simulators are lame.
And I don't care about your strategy games, Jez. They're horrible.
Oh, there you go. I don't care about your stupid pony horse riding games that you seem to love for your achievements. What was it called? Bobby's Horse Adventures or whatever.
And I'm of the opinion that Gears of War should be shelved and they should make something new,
Well, I'm of the opinion that they should cancel Halo and give the budget from Halo to Gears of War. How about that?
I'm of the opinion that Xbox should just stop making Age of Empires games and actually make good games,
Well, I'm of the opinion... Oh, man.
Just kidding, by the way.
That Splinter Cell is dead.
Oh, you had to go to Splinter Cell, didn't you?
Dead. Splinter Cell is dead, bro.
It probably is dead.
It's as dead as Skyrim.
And you know what? If Xbox bought Ubisoft, here's interesting. So like last night, I get a phone call, and a buddy of mine says, "I want to talk to you about something." And I was like, "Okay." I'm hearing some things about some Xbox acquisitions. I'm like, "Oh my God, you too are now also telling me you've heard from people about it." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" He's like, "I heard that they've acquired Ubisoft and it's going to be announced on Monday." I'm like, "What is going on?" I'm getting phone calls from people saying that they're hearing from other people that I'm like, what is, like, this has gotten out of control. And I understand the excitement about it, like more studios, more games, all that stuff, talk about. I think because a lot of people remembered what Bethesda meant for Xbox. Like, a lot of people were still like, well, Xbox just bought these tiddly-dink studios like Compulsion's Game or Undead Labs. Not that I think they're like that, but a lot of the detractors would be like, well, Microsoft didn't really spend any money buying these studios. And there was still some doubt about how all in Microsoft was in on gaming, right? And then they bought Bethesda, and everybody's perception changed. Was like, man, they spent $7.5 billion. Google right after that announced that they were basically shutting down their first party because they were like, screw it, right? And I think everybody wants to get back to that point where it was so exciting after they bought Bethesda because you knew that you had all these games coming from Bethesda and Xbox Game Studios, and you knew finally, without a shadow of a doubt, that gaming was important to Microsoft. Like, finally, after all this time, and everybody was pumped. But then, of course, reality dawns on you, and you realize, well, shit, Deathloop is exclusive to PlayStation, shows Ghostwire Tokyo, Starfield and Redfall are next year. A lot of these games that they're building are 2023 and beyond. So, like, the reality hits you in the face that even though they acquired this big company, you weren't going to see any fruits of that relationship for a bit. So it's like you started like, oh man, that kind of sucks. So people want to feel that again, and so they want to they spread rumors about Ubisoft or Take-Two or Warner Brothers, because that would be another example of how Microsoft is all in. And it'll be another round of people getting excited about games coming, right? That, like, because Ubisoft puts out a good 2 to 3 games every single year. If they were bought out by Xbox, now those would be 2 to 3 games every single year that Ubisoft would make. So I understand why people get excited about it. However, I also understand when people get really put off by it, because it can be all-consuming. Because a lot of my questions, like in DMs, are about acquisitions. Who are they talking to? What's happening? And I always say, these things take time. They can completely fall apart. Just like Jez was pretty sure that they were gonna, buy Bungie at one point before. If you remember that last year, right? We like Bungie was gonna get bought out, and then they had to come out and say no, and it's like, just hold your horses. Like, these things take time, and they'll happen when they happen.
They were talking to Bungie.
And they
were talking to Bungie, man.
I know, but then you look at PlayStation, like, everybody was just Housemark. Like, you might acquire them, and it took them a little bit to be acquired, and still they're like, they haven't acquired Bluepoint, and people assume they're going to acquire Bluepoint, but who knows if they will? But it's taken a long time. I'm like, these things just take a long time, and I just do not believe that suddenly half of the Xbox community on Twitter knows about a huge publisher acquisition between public companies that Microsoft is going to announce on Monday. Because if that happens, like, you could get in trouble, like, not like me or you, but like somebody at Xbox could get in trouble with insider trading, if something like Take-Two leaked, which it wouldn't. And that's why I always say, because somebody was asking me about it, I said I would wait from a very credible source, like someone like a Jason Schreier writing about it on Bloomberg or CNBC or something in the business sector, that, okay, this is happening, and not like some just random tweet from anybody on Twitter that has eye emojis and you think might mean something. And when you combine it with this person's tweet who said this a month ago, and with this person's tweet of someone being surprised, you throw it all in a pot, and it means that Xbox is about to acquire Take-Two. Look, maybe it sounds like a downer at this point, and, I've been known to crush Xbox streams, but I just don't want people to be disappointed. Like, I want people to be like, I'd rather tell people the truth than basically string them along with fantasy and lies and stuff like that, So, that's why I'm saying, like, I don't expect anything. And you shouldn't either. And I think a lot of the people on social media who are saying these things just want to make it seem like they do know something. And I would love to be wrong, because I would love for Xbox to make a fresh round of acquisitions next week. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I'm not expecting it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to go about my routine as normal. I'm going to get up, read my book, play some video games, and if Microsoft decides to... I'm just saying, man, like...
Dude, I swear, man. You started reading books because you're old now.
Oh, I'm old now.
You're middle-aged now. No more games.
No more games. Yeah.
Anyway, I just imagine you there in a leather armchair with your book and your pipe, smoking away, reading a book, all intellectual and shit. No?
I mean, that's a nice image. I don't smoke though, but yeah.
You could smoke one of those bubble pipes, with the bubbles that come out.
Jez, I mean, honestly, aren't you sick and tired of talking about these rumors, the acquisition stuff? Doesn't it just bother you at some degree? Because it bothers me.
It doesn't bother me. I think it's funny. Like, I just think it's fun. I think, you know what I think would be really funny? What would really cap all this discussion off and make me really happy? If they did announce an acquisition on Monday.
I mean, I would love
after
it.
we spend like 20 minutes bitching about
Sure,
it,
no.
they did announce something on Monday. Now that'd be
Sure.
fucking hilarious.
That would be, because but you know what? I would love it. I would love it to be wrong on this. I would love for it to be proven completely wrong, and then wake up Monday and Xbox bought Take-Two. Now we can have the discussion about Grand Theft Auto being exclusive or not. 100%. That would give people content for days. And don't you lie, Jez, because it would give Windows Central content for months about all that.
Dude, it's getting to the point now with Windows Central where we physically can't cover any games that are on Xbox. Because obviously we give priority to Microsoft stuff because we're a Microsoft blog. And Microsoft has so many games, there's no time to cover any other game. Like with all the service stuff, like Grounded, Minecraft Dungeons updates, and all this sort of stuff. The Grounded was teasing the biggest update ever for October earlier. Man, it's from next year. It's just going to be impossible to cover anything else.
Yeah, you know what? You look at it like this. I've come out publicly and said what I think about these acquisition rumors, so of course I'm going to be wrong, and Microsoft will announce something on Monday. There we go.
Yeah.
You know it's actually going to happen now. And everybody can look back on this, and we can all laugh.
Post a poll, man. Post a poll. What studios people vote for? Like Take-Two, Warner Brothers, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Capcom. Post a poll, man. Post a poll.
Post a poll.
Let's speak to the people. We want to know what the people think. Which studio?
What studio do you want them to buy, or what studio do you think they are going to buy? Because there's difference. Personal preference versus.
Yeah. What do people want? What do people want? Ask the chat. What publisher? Don't do like smaller indies or whatever. Do publisher, man. Do some publishers. How many options do you get?
I have 4, so I'll put in Ubisoft, right? Ubisoft. I'll put in Take-Two. I'll put in Warner Brothers games.
Yeah.
And I'll put in Sega.
Sega. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. So here you go.
Slap that up.
So here's the poll. You vote. So while this poll is going around, we got a bunch of super chats when they hit up. Forte comes back and he says, "My problems run deep, sir. I wear my scarf visibly on my shoulders daily. One day I will free myself the Destiny shackles. I'm at peace with my decisions. Still love you, bro. Destiny slander and all." You're amazing, Forte. You're amazing. Artemis says, "So when Microsoft was looking to acquire TikTok and Discord, it was very public. So it is possible it could be like that." Well, yeah, they were very public about Discord and TikTok.
Well, that was because the U.S. government.
For TikTok, not for Discord.
Sell.
Yeah, for TikTok, not for Discord, though.
Yeah. For Discord, but I think Discord leaked that because they
leaked it to Jason Schreier and Bloomberg.
Listen to this. Discord leaked that they were trying to get acquired because they wanted to inflate their valuation. Because I don't know if you saw this week, but TikTok completed a funding round worth $15 billion. $15 billion at valuation of $15 billion. So Discord was doing some manipulative shit there. They had no intention to sell. They were just looking for a valuation to do another funding round. God knows what Discord's end game is. Like, I suppose like they want to go public or something. Well, that's all they can do, I guess.
But I'm saying, like, Discord was a reality simply because of who reported it, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if Bloomberg came out on Monday and said Xbox was looking to acquire Warner Brothers, I'd believe it. But, like, some random Joe Blow on the internet, I have a hard time believing it. I'm sorry. I just have my doubts. Brett says, "Jez, do you think we will see another Halo Wars game, or at least another Halo-based RTS?"
I think eventually they will revisit Halo Wars. I think they will, because the issue with Halo Wars was always the simplicity. They need to make it a real RTS and not like this simple dumbed down RTS that they've been doing. Like, it needs to be a true RTS, like full blown complex with like proper building stuff, and not just like this. You can build a base in these specific areas and all that stuff. It needs to be more dynamic. I do think they'll revisit it, And I think like World's Edge obviously is the right candidate to do it, but we'll have to wait and see. I think Microsoft it'd be good because like you could have like Age of Empires as your sort of fantasy RTS, and then Halo as your sci-fi RTS, and that's sort of like what Blizzard were doing with Warcraft and Starcraft before they shit the bed and went completely crazy off the rails. It's really funny, Rand. I got a press release from Activision Blizzard today.
Did you?
And they were like, tune in for brand new Overwatch 2 information. And I was like, ooh, Overwatch 2 information? That's interesting. And I started reading the body text, and it was like, there will be new Overwatch 2 information during an esports match.
Esports.
Yeah. And it was like, this is so sad and so desperate that like they're trying to trick people into watching the Overwatch esports, which is dying pretty quick, with the promise of Overwatch 2 information, which just lost its lead dev. Man, Blizzard are fucking shambles, man. They are shambles. But I digress.
Dave says, excitement for games, #preach, please. It's all about them games. Let's see. Pro Fiji says, we can't play Xbox at work, Rand. Those 8 hours are for acquisition talk. I get that, man. Some people are just bored on Twitter and they want to, oh, look, one and only Dealer Gaming's in chat. Wow, surprise. Dealer Gaming actually stopping by the Xbox 2 podcast? What did I do to deserve this? Oh my God, it's amazing. The P90 X-Man says, I'm of the opinion Xbox does not need more studios. And that's a good opinion to have. They may not. I think they do. I think for their goals of reaching 3 billion gamers and their goal of having like a big AAA title every quarter, I still think they need more. But they're definitely at the point where like maybe they don't necessarily do. So Dave says, want Xbox to make more cross-IP games, Xbox Kart or Civilization competitor with unique characters, tribes, and clans from its multiple IPs. Brett says, Edit NetherRealm deciding to prioritize Mortal Kombat over Injustice recently because of such rumors. It seems like the inside track would influence the decision more than the outside. Your thoughts? Well, I think normally NetherRealm flip-flops. They do Mortal Kombat, then Injustice, then Mortal Kombat, then Injustice. But I think Jeff Grubb said that their next game is Mortal Kombat 12 simply because Warner Brothers was going through that whole merger with Discovery, and it would be an easier sell for them if they were working on Mortal Kombat instead of Injustice, because that's tied up in all the licensing stuff. But we still don't know what NetherRealm is actually making. It's not like they announced anything. And Warner Brothers Discovery did say that the studios were going to go with them, even though they did sell that one mobile studio. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what their next game is. And, there was a point, like what? Who was interested in buying Warner Brothers, Jazz? It was EA, Activision, Take-Two, and Microsoft, right? I believe it was.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Braddoll says, I think people like to speculate whether they're right or wrong because it's similar to the feeling of birthday presents as a kid. It's a mystery. And Jez, if Microsoft acquires Bandai Namco, I fully intend to be on your show to explain why. So, yeah.
Man, like, that is an interesting one. Like, Bandai Namco has, like, had a bit of a resurgence in recent years. They just announced Tales of Arise has already sold 1 million copies, which is insane. Like I would never have expected Tales of Arise to sell that many copies that quick. But it had some really good marketing, and it's a pretty decent game as well. I mean, I've been playing Tales of Arise. Like, I don't know if I mentioned it last week or whatever. I think I was still under embargo then. But yeah, I've been playing Tales of Arise, and it's pretty good. It's not blowing my mind. Like, I'm not sure I really enjoy the combat that much. I think I've done the second boss now. And the story's a bit weird, and I don't know. It's not the most amazing game, I think. But it got a lot of good praise, and I think it's a good Tales of game. And also, we just don't get many JRPGs on Xbox, so it's just nice to see it come. But those anime games, Rand, they're getting pretty big, man. Anime games. You got your Scarlet Nexus. You got your what was the other Code Vein they did too? Bandai Namco, and now Tales of Arise is doing really well. And they also Bandai Namco publish CD Projekt Red's games in Europe. I don't know if you know this, Rand.
Really?
Do you know that?
Yeah.
Warner Brothers published them in America, I think, but Bandai Namco published them in Europe, which is weird. So like they have that whole publishing arm as well, and I think they actually have disc printing facilities as well, which is weird. Is it them or is it THQ? There's one publisher in Europe which has like disc printing factories, and that's like a cornerstone of their business. I can't remember if it was Namco Bandai or THQ. But anyway, I'm getting off kilter a bit. But I do think there is an argument to be made about Bandai Namco, Rand, just because like of how mainstream anime has gotten. Like, I remember being a kid, Rand, and liking anime when I was a kid. Nobody had heard of anime. Like if you think like, you know, liking anime makes you a nerd now, back in the late 90s, it made you a mega nerd.
A mega nerd, huh?
A mega nerd. It was like the ultimate nerd thing. Like people hadn't even heard of it, you know. So, but it's pretty damn mainstream now. I think I said before on the podcast that like is it Demon Slayer? The Demon Slayer manga just that one manga outsells the entire Marvel comic book industry in America. Just that one manga by itself. And I don't know if that says something about the decline of Marvel comics or the proliferation of manga. But I do think there's an argument to be made about Bandai Namco as well. But I'd rather see Capcom for that. I don't know.
Yeah, Blue Alt says the return of Pandemic Studios would be nice. Can't wait for Scalebound to come out. I'll be waiting. They can take all the time they need. Yeah. So Redfall, Jez. Did you see these leaks the other day, last week when you were on vacation?
Yeah, well, I think Windows Central actually was the first studio Windows Central was the first outlet to publish the Redfall pictures, I think. They appeared on Imgur. How do you pronounce that website?
I don't know, but I think it was because there was a playtest.
Yeah,
for
secret
the game.
playtest. Someone just leaked the whole damn thing, even though like all their details were on the screenshots. They just YOLO'd it and leaked everything. I think they could get their asses sued because the NDAs you have to sign for those things do have provisions for lawsuits in them. So, oh well. I hope it was worth it, whoever leaked them. But what do you think, Rand? It looks like a looter kind of game with item levels and stuff. I think I am more interested in the game after seeing the screenshots than I was before. What do you think?
Well, I'm interested in the game because it's Arcane, and Arcane hasn't made a bad game. And this one, I was a little bit, there was always that talk that this was going to be like Left 4 Dead, but with the vampires or whatever. But
yeah, that's why I wasn't interested.
But it seems, at least according to the person who played it, that it was more Borderlands-ish. Like their take on Borderlands with a open, like a bigger map, and tiered weapons, and you could play it single player, you could play it co-op. So I think it made it sound more interesting to me than before. But it's not even about that. It's about like the people sharing the pictures and judging the game based on like a pre-alpha playtest, right? And here's the thing. Xbox fans and PlayStation fans, they go back and forth all the time. PlayStation fans will say Xbox games are bad. Xbox fans will say PlayStation games are bad, but they'll be like, well, PlayStation games are just this way, and then right. So it's weird because you'll see PlayStation fans, they have that one image of the character, and it doesn't look good. Like the screenshots weren't very good looking. They weren't pretty whatsoever. But anybody who knows like game development knows that like that's the case, especially when you're pre-alpha and you're just playtesting to see how something plays. You don't put final textures and all that stuff in the game because the game's not coming out for another year. But then people, of course, use that picture to basically justify their continued hatred or trolling of Xbox. Like, look at this garbage. Look at this Game Pass fodder game. You see how horrible this looks. This is the quality that Bethesda's putting out, even though Bethesda just released an Arcane game that looks great and is critically acclaimed. This next game from Austin, this is what happens when Microsoft gets their grubby hands on a developer. They produce, fodder like this, even though the game's been in development since like 2017 pre-acquisition. So you have this weird dynamic on social media where the PlayStation fans will say how horrible Redfall is because of how it looks, and the Xbox fans get upset. So then they'll take the Gran Turismo 7 trailer footage, Craig Turismo 7 as it's been called by some, and they'll highlight how horrible Gran Turismo 7 looks in certain spots. And then the PlayStation fans get upset because they're doing that. And yet the irony is like they do it to each other all the time. I don't understand. I don't get. I mean, I understand why people do it because they're children. But like, it's exhausting. I thought maybe people would want to more discuss like what Redfall was supposed to be, right? Like, oh, Borderlands and 6 characters and all this stuff that we didn't know about versus like how it looked. Like, that's not what the game's going to look like in a year from now, because it's a playtest. But yet that's all that anybody wanted to talk about, and it got really, really bad. I saw some people attacking some of the developers of Arcane Austin about how shitty the game looked. But hey, when you deal with fanboys like that, this is kind of what happens. But I don't know, like, I'm kind of glad it's more Borderland style than Left 4 Dead, personally. So
that's why I got interested in it. Like, man, I really like Diablo style games, like the whole like the loop of like satisfying combat, getting loot and stuff like that. But I don't like the humor of Borderlands, and I always if Destiny kind of can be thought of like that, I just don't like the writing of Destiny in the world. It's just, I don't know. There's just something. I hate to rag on Destiny because I know a lot of people really love it, and Destiny's had amazing amount of content be poured into it. But there's just something I really don't like about Destiny, and I almost can't put my finger on it. It just feels like soulless in a way. I don't know what it is, but I've longed for a sort of Borderlands-like game that could be for me. Like, I tried The Division, and the end game was terrible, and stuff like that, and a drop off it. I'm waiting for one to come that I can enjoy. Ironically, the one I enjoyed the most was probably Fallout 76, which is what everyone else hated. So I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but I've got high hopes for Redfall now. After seeing that, and I'm glad it's not a Left 4 Dead game because I don't have any friends to play those kind of games with.
Well, you could always play it with me and Dealer. When Dealer doesn't decide not to play NBA 2K22 because that's all Dealer plays.
But
we gotta get it. We gotta get him off 2K. We gotta get him off 2K, man. Like, he put like 30 days into 2K21. He even made me play the game. But like, now that 2K22's out, like, I deleted 2K21. I'm like, I'm never playing this again. But every time I look, I'm reading my book, I'll see what's on, and then I'll see Dealer there, and I'm like, oh, maybe Dealer's playing something new, and it's like, nope, Dealer's just sitting there playing 2K22 again, as always. And I'm just like, maybe
that game doesn't have any guns in it.
No, it doesn't got any guns. It's got Jake from State Farm in there.
Jake from Adventure Time?
No, Jake from State Farm. You didn't see that making the round?
What is that?
You wouldn't.
What is that?
It was basically, how do I say this? There's a video going around on Twitter of like Jake from like State Farm, like he's like a character in the game, and your creative character goes up to them and basically is just like, hey, what can you give me? He's like, man, I'll give you I'll give you the drip, and you get to like put yourself into like State Farm clothing, and they'll say like, hey, State Farm, whatever their slogan is. I totally forget what it is.
What the hell is State Farm?
State Farm's like an insurance company here in the States or whatever. You know?
What?
Yeah.
I'm so confused, man. I can't. You talking about drip? Is
Drip is like
I've been playing Surgeon
slang
Simulator as
for
well.
whatever. Dealer says, you sound like a Sony fan. Check my gamer score, fraud. Dealer. You talk about gamer score. You better not. You better, like, I'm the king of that, dealer. You're not coming at me over that. Please. I've gotten more your gamer score in 4 years since I quit. Like, I've gotten more gamer score than you in the 4 years that I quit than you have total. Don't talk to me about gamer score.
Wow.
I see Special Nick's in the chat. So he's I guess we should ask him, Nick, is there an acquisition happening on Monday?
Acquisition season, Nick?
Is acquisition season still happening, Nick? What's going on? Is it still on schedule?
Tell us about the strip.
Yeah, what studios are they acquiring, Nick? What publishers? Is it Ubisoft? Is it Take-Two?
Is it Disney?
What's going on? Yeah, where's Infamous, Nick? Wasn't Infamous going to be at the PlayStation show? What's going on, Nick?
Oh, poor Nick. Oh no. Hey, don't screw with Nick, man. We're giving Australia nuclear weapons. Did you see that news, Rand?
No, I didn't. What was that?
America, Britain, and Australia are forming a nuclear weapons pact, and we're gonna share nuclear weapons data between our three glorious countries. Isn't that wonderful? Rand?
Hey, we should this poll. We got 600 votes, Jez, on the poll. 622 votes. What do you think? What do you think's winning?
Well, considering I've got the poll open.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess yeah.
Okay, shall I read out the results
Go
for
ahead.
those who are listening?
Read it out. Yeah.
This is what the live audience thinks about the studio acquisitions. Languishing at last place is Ubisoft with a whopping 13%. Coming in at number 2 is Sega on 20%. Take-Two is on 26%. And a massive 41% think Microsoft should buy Warner Brothers games. What do you think, Rand? Do you agree with that assessment?
I mean, WB Games, in my opinion, completes Xbox. Like, okay, you can make the thing for Take-Two, Grand Theft Auto, would be game-changing, right? But WB Games gives you a fighting game studio with NetherRealm. They give you a kid-friendly studio with Traveler's Tale that Phil's talked about, right? They give you a bunch of big AAA studios that can continue to work on superhero games, which is now like the whole Xbox has a problem sort of thing. After, Wolverine was announced for PlayStation, like, where's Xbox's superhero game? So now, like, you get Rocksteady, you get WB Montreal, and you get Monolith, like, all great studios, and, like, they have, and it's just like, it would complete them. In a way, I guess you would say, well, it wouldn't really complete them on the PC side, so maybe Take-Two makes more sense, because Civilization and stuff like that, or Sega, but for my money, I would pick Warner Brothers. They got more games that I would like to play. But, only Nick knows if that's happening. And Nick says there's an acquisition happening next week. So,
Nick.
If nothing happens, if nothing happens next week, make sure you at Nick. Next week on Twitter, special Nick, and being like,
Nick just DM'd me about 15 acquisitions happening next week.
15
on Monday.
Damn.
15. Damn.
That's
Nick.
That's a lot of acquisitions.
Oh, poor Nick.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know about this poll, man. I kind of agree, at least with NetherRealm, but I don't know. A lot of those studios haven't done a whole lot of stuff for a long time. Like, what the hell's Monolith doing? What's Rocksteady doing? That kind of just.
I mean, Rocksteady's doing Suicide Squad, which is they're showing it next month in the Warner Brothers Fandome. So
it's been a long time since they've done anything. That's a lot of money.
And if I were Xbox, I'd be like, why the hell did it take you? What would it be? Batman Arkham Knight came out in 2015. 7 years. Why did it take you 7 years to make your next game?
2015?
Yeah, Arkham Knight was 2015. So
God, time flies when you're playing video games.
Yeah.
But dude, I think I would, out of those, like, I think Warner Brothers would be a good pick. Probably makes sense from a culture perspective as well. Especially if they somehow manage to get the licenses to all the DC stuff. That'd be very lucrative. But personally, I think I would choose Sega out of those. I would
Yeah.
choose Sega. You get Yakuza, you get Atlas, you get Persona, you get all your JRPGs lined up. You get Sonic the Hedgehog, which is the most wasted IP in history. You know, I think it's absurd how recognizable and how massive Sonic is as an IP, and even had a pretty decent movie, and how god awful the games have been, except for Sonic Mania. Like every Sonic game, except for Sonic Mania of the last decade, has been complete garbage. And I know that's a controversial opinion with some people, but it's damn true. Damn true, baby. So I think like if they could get Sonic and make good games, I think that could be incredibly lucrative indeed. And also there's the whole history there with the Dreamcast, and they've got loads of great IP, man. They've got Streets of Rage, Ultra Beast, a lot of great classic games you could slap in xCloud for mobile. Man, Sega be sweet. Bring Sega. I would choose Sega, man. I would choose Sega.
Yeah.
Oh, an Unknown Pack says you also get Alpha Protocol from Sega.
Ooh.
Maybe Obsidian could revive Alpha Protocol. I don't know.
Interesting. Sergeant Rake says, what would be your guys' dream game? Mine would be a pod racer made by Turn 10, Playground and LucasArts, open world like Horizon. That would be dope. A dream game. Something to do. I'm going to imagine Jez's dream game is a game where you play as Kim Kardashian while you eat mayo.
Man, I had so much mayo and fries last week when I was on vacation.
Yeah.
Every opportunity I had, I was like, yeah, I'm going to buy mayo and fries and just post a social pic of it. And so Darren Deed also says with Sega you also get Virtua Fighter, you know.
There, I mean, yeah, okay.
What was the question about? Game
Dream
we want
game.
we want man?
Dream game.
Dream game. Man, I kind of like, I don't know. I kind of want I want Wasteland 4, but I also want city building elements in it. I want an RPG where I can sort of like, it's an RPG, but I can also build a base. You know? There's no game like that. Have you ever played what's it called now? They Are Billions, where you build a base and fight zombie hordes.
No, I know about the game, but I haven't played it.
I love that game so much.
Since I'm reading it, how about a Wheel Time game? Huh? Now that
no one
would
cares
be cool.
about that.
Yeah, I know.
No one cares about that.
Nobody cares about that.
Nobody cares about Wheel of Time like nobody cares about Splinter Cell.
I was about to say Splinter Cell. Damn you, Jez. God damn it. I don't know. I never really give him
no. You know, my perfect game would be a Splinter Cell turn-based strategy game. That'd be my perfect
Jesus
game.
Christ.
A free-to-play turn-based strategy Splinter Cell that has pay-to-win microtransactions and time gating. That's exclusive to iOS. That's my dream game.
I know a lot of people would probably be like, my dream game would be some comic book thing like Black Panther or Wolverine or something like that. But I don't know. Like, I really don't. I've had the Batman games. Like, if there weren't Batman, I'd be like Batman because I love Batman. But we've had a bunch of those. So I don't know. I can't really think of a dream game off the top of my head. Jay Beat says Microsoft should buy the developer of the old WCW wrestling games. They're developing the new AEW game and make that exclusive. Game over. I don't think exclusive wrestling games would push the needle very much.
NWO Revenge on the N64 was a pretty sick game. Did you ever play that?
WCW versus NWO Revenge. That actually got me into watching wrestling.
That game did?
Yeah, the game did, because I would go over to my buddy's house and we'd all play it, and then like we started watching WCW because of it, and then we started watching WWF because of it. So like every Monday night we would go over to his house and have one TV playing Nitro and one TV playing Raw, and we would watch it, and it was like it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah, I've never talked about this on the show.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah,
man. WWE used to be so good back in the day. What the hell happened to that shit, man? So bad now. It's so terrible. I tried watching it recently because I was figuring like I need a TV show that's on regularly and I can just sit there and enjoy it every week. I miss having that in my life, Rand. I miss it. And I tried watching WWE recently, and it was just so bad. It was the storylines were just so bad. The characters are so bad. What happened to that shit, man? I don't know.
I don't know what happened to it. Achievement says, found out about YouTube channel memberships. This is the first channel I thought to join. Jez, how do you deal with the Z-Fold 3 atrocious battery drain?
Well, I don't have particularly bad battery drain, and I did test the battery really hardcore when I was on vacation because I had to travel. I had to travel for 12 hours on a train to get where we were going to, and that whole time, I used my Galaxy Fold the whole time, and unfolded while listening to music with Bluetooth, and I was doing it on purpose to drain the battery, and I got about 14 hours battery life out of it. The way you do it is you turn the brightness down, you turn off NFC, you turn off 120 hertz display, put it down to 60 hertz, and then it will last much longer. You know, disable all apps that run in the background that you don't use. There's a lot you can do on Android to extend the battery life on your phone, especially the Samsung stuff. So just go through all the settings, turn off all the crap, and if you need the battery, if you need it to, you know, if you like traveling and stuff, turn on power saver mode, which is what I did as well. Limits the CPU down to 70%. Don't even notice the difference. Cutting 30% off the CPU, you don't even notice the difference. But yeah, I'm gonna write more about the Galaxy Fold 3 on Windows Central. So we won't talk about it too much here because this is not a tech podcast. We should start a tech podcast, Rand.
We should?
Maybe
No,
not.
I don't know much about tech.
You just like your books. You like the smell of paper.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's gonna be like, I tried out book 1 of Wheel of Time because you ran and it sucked, and I'm not reading it. I'd be like, yeah, book 1 is a very generic fantasy story, but like, I wouldn't judge the whole series on the first book because, like, it finally starts coming into its own after that. But yeah, for the first book, I'm sure most people will be like, wow, this is really derivative of Lord of the Rings, and you'd be 100% correct because it is. So yeah, I could totally see people saying that. Hey Jez, what about these Series X and S refresh rumors? Supposedly
Bullshit.
a more power. Well, you didn't even let me set it up. More powerful Series S coming next year. A more powerful Series X coming in 2023. Way more expensive. So what do you think?
Fake news.
Fake news.
All right, let's just you know, just put the knife into this room right now. There is no Xbox Series X Pro. There's no new Series S coming out next year. They might do like minor internal revisions, what they've done with the PlayStation 5 recently, more efficient engineering, stuff like that. There's not going to be a spec bump. There's not going to be a price change. There's not going to be a new version. There's not going to be a Series X Pro or an S Pro or whatever. It's bullshit. It's just bullshit. So whoever, I don't know where that rumor came from, but it's fake.
It came from a YouTuber. Moore's Law is dead. He talked about PlayStation putting out a Slim next year, and they're putting out then a PS5 Pro in 2023. That's going to retail for $600 to $700, and that the Series S was going to have a refresh next year, but also more powerful, more than 5 teraflops of power, so a more powerful Series S. And they'll price drop the current Series S to like 150 or whatever, or like 200. So they'd have the Series S at 200, the Series S2 at 300, and then the Series X at whatever it is now, 500. And then the following year in 2023, they'll have a refresh of the Series X, and it'll be more powerful, maybe like 14 teraflops. So they'll have
yeah, they said it was for 8K, right?
Yeah, 8K, yeah.
Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. So whoever is worried that the console they bought this year is going to be obsoleted next year, it's bullshit, man. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. So wherever the source of this information came from, they're trolling, or someone's being trolled. It's just bullshit.
I won't believe it until I read it on Windows Central, because you have article sources and documentation, right?
Yeah, I actually hooked up some sources on this and said, this ain't true, is it? Because I just sort of, I could tell it wasn't true. Like, why would they do this? in the second year. You know, like it's never been done before. It's ridiculous. So it's just bullshit. And they were like, yeah, it's why would we do this? So no, it's bullshit. Total bullshit. Shocker. Is that shocking? Is that so shocking?
A YouTuber
That's
just
bullshit.
making up stuff for views? What? Never heard of him.
What?
Never heard of it. Never would do that, right?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
So did you check out any of the PlayStation Showcase?
I didn't watch the showcase itself, but I watched the trailers as they came out, or some of them anyway. I am in love with Thor from God of War Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, the whole discussion around Thor, Fat Thor, and
He looks
how
amazing.
people are pissed about that, right?
Fat representation, baby.
Cold
Yeah.
Eastwood put
Finally a cosplay for me.
You see, Cold Eastwood put my face on Fat Thor and your face on somebody. What other character? And Gaz was on Atreus. You see that?
Yeah, that was really good. What yours was anyway. Like it looked really, really, really realistic. Are you gonna cosplay him?
I mean, I probably could. Yeah.
Yeah, you should do it, man. Cosplay Thor in E3 2022, man. Do it. But I thought like you know, there was some really cool stuff there. You know, it's just blocking a spammer in chat. Hot girls and boys video chat. That's a new one. Let's not.
Yeah, I know, right? They always seem to pop up, even though I've hidden them multiple times.
That is weird.
I'm all for big fat dude Thor, right? I know a lot of people are like, but I want Thor from the MCU, nice and muscled and stuff.
Man,
right?
the Thor from the MCU is a pretty boy. Not even vaguely what Thor is supposed to look like. Man, MCU sucks. And all the pantheon is completely wrong in that. Fat Thor is awesome, you know? And Fat Thor matters. So I'm gonna get a poster of that Fat Thor, put it on my wall, baby.
So
But
is that the only thing that stood
games
out to you from the show was Fat Thor?
Yeah, pretty much. I can't really think of anything else now.
Well, I mean, it's funny because most of the show was that people were hyping up this show to be something spectacular. Like it was going to, like, once you saw this show, you would never think twice about Xbox ever again, right? And the show was good, but it wasn't great. Insomniac completely saved it, in my opinion. Like, having a new Wolverine game, super awesome. Wolverine's probably after Batman, is probably my favorite superhero. And Insomniac is like literally carrying this generation for PlayStation. Like they're basically,
Insomniac was a pretty good purchase, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean they're basically like making every single developer look bad. Every single developer is like, man, COVID, we got problems, we gotta delay stuff, right? And here's Insomniac, who's literally like, okay, we delivered Miles Morales at launch. We delivered a remastered version of Spider-Man. We also then delivered Ratchet and Clank the same year. And we're working on Spider-Man 2, which will be out in 2 years. And we're also working on a Wolverine game that'll probably be out in 2024. What y'all doing? How come y'all can't be this efficient? You know what I mean? And that goes to like everybody. Like, how long has Ninja Theory been working on Hellblade 2? You know, or any of these other studios that are seemingly taking forever to make their games. And here's Insomniac, literally like a machine, just pumping stuff out. I think the surprise of Wolverine saved Sony's show for a lot of people. I even saw videos of Sony fans crying about the PC announcement of Uncharted 4, and which is always hilarious. So Insomniac is really just, they're well worth the money, and it seems like one of the best acquisitions you could make. But that really sparked like a whole conversation about how Xbox needs its own superhero game. Because PlayStation has Spider-Man and now Wolverine, and that they're building their own sort of MCU within, the PlayStation universe. And there's been this discussion going on here for a while. Like before it was Xbox has no games, and then they bought all these studios in Bethesda, and it's like, Okay, well now they have too many games. But now the discussion is Xbox doesn't have superhero games. What do you think about
Yes.
that? Because I know you tweeted about it, and I know you got a bunch of people asking you. Do you think that's an area of deficiency that Xbox needs to address sooner rather than later, or if at all? Like, if Xbox never makes a first-person superhero game, or not a first-person, but a first-party superhero game, or a Star Wars game, would that be a fail for Xbox Game Studios? Because some people would say it is. Some people would say, hey, if Sony's doing this, if Nintendo can get an exclusive Marvel game, because they did, like, with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, I believe, right? Like, why isn't that Xbox can't deliver an exclusive Marvel game when clearly Marvel is certainly okay spreading out the license to a lot of different people? Square Enix, Take-Two, Nintendo, Sony. Why isn't Xbox getting into to the thick of it? What do you think?
I think there is something to be said about the fact that Microsoft is a big company, has a lot of money, that licensees are kind of like, well, Microsoft can pay more for this. Microsoft can afford to pay us more than what Sony or Nintendo can pay. I do think that there is that aspect to it, personally. So like that obviously is true, but I don't think that's fair to Microsoft because I don't think Xbox can get those margins back, considering right now they have a smaller platform. So I think there might just be some simple economics behind why they aren't doing this. I think Microsoft wants to have full ownership of those IP. They want to be able to keep them into xCloud permanently and not have Disney one day turn around and say, well, we're taking this, license away from you or whatever. Um, so when I did tweet out like I wanted to hear from people what their opinions were about this because I was getting a lot of DMs about it, and I tweeted out that like I don't care about superheroes, so it doesn't affect me personally. And then some like fanboys saw the fact that I was like, oh wow, actually a Judge Dredd game from the Coalition would be pretty cool. Judge Dredd is not a superhero, thank you very much. In my view, but I was more talking about like your superpowers kind of superheroes, And I did say that I do like the idea of Microsoft Studios using IP. Like I'd like to see the Coalition do a Mandalorian game, for example, like a third-person shooter. I think that'd be great for the Coalition. I'd like to see, I don't know, some of the other studios look at the Alien IP, or I don't think we've really had a good Predator game. I think it'd be cool to get a proper good Predator game. And I think like a lot of it just stems from like I don't want to say jealousy, but it kind of is. It's kind of like what the thought of Insomniac doing for Wolverine what they did for Spider-Man is like pretty exciting, right? And it makes you think, well, I would like my favorite superhero or comic book hero to be treated by one of Microsoft studios like Blade and Judge Dredd, and people in the chat talking about Spawn. I kept seeing Spawn come up a lot. A Spawn game would be pretty cool too. But at the same time, it's an economics question. Like if you're licensing an IP, you're giving away a chunk of the profits. You're giving away a chunk of the royalties potentially, stuff like that. So I kind of see it from both directions. I think Microsoft would rather have full ownership of the IP they're investing in. And at the same time, I do kind of feel like it does sort of create this gap, this hole where some of this stuff could be filled in with. Like Microsoft did a lot with the Terminator IP for Gears of War skins, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did this whole campaign, the new Terminator movie. Was that any good, by the way? Did anyone watch that movie? Did you watch that movie?
It was all right.
But okay. Like, rate it against some of the other Terminator movies.
I mean, it doesn't come close to 1 or 2. So,
was it better than 3?
In some ways, it was. Yeah.
Man, why can't they make that? Why some of these IP that they keep trying to bring back? What? It just sucks that they fail at it so much. Oh well, like Terminator is a great IP. It just kind of sucks that it hasn't been the best for movies after the fact. Like Alien 2 as well. I'd like to see a more like high quality Alien games. It's so weird that we only got like one Alien horror game and then nothing. But that's the thing. It's like the economics don't line up sometimes. And maybe like to stay true to the IP, Alien had to be a horror game. People don't like horror games that much, you know? Like they don't sell that well to casual audiences, what I'm saying. And also, if you make a Wolverine game, there's a big question about Wolverine being like, will it be 18 rated? Will it be a mature game? Will it be violent? Will like it be full of blood and guts? Because you know, if you're doing a Wolverine game with combat, there should be blood in it, right? A lot of blood. That also eats into the potential selling power of a game. You want your game to be teen rated to get the kids to buy it, you know, like Halo. You know, imagine having a shooter that was teen rated. But apparently they sell better, which is why Halo's teen rated for whatever reason. Man, that's another reason I don't like Halo, Rand. Why is Halo such a Lego game? Anyway, oh yeah, I suppose we did get Aliens Fireteam, but I heard that wasn't particularly great. Did you play that Aliens Fireteam?
I have not played it, but I know Miles liked it.
Yeah, Miles liked it, but Miles doesn't have the best taste in games, let's be honest.
If he's here listening to you right now, I probably would disagree.
Yeah, maybe. Regardless, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of in two minds about it. Like, what do you think, Rand?
Well,
do you think they desperately need a superhero game?
Do they absolutely need one? No, they don't need one. Would it help? Yeah, it probably would, because if you're trying to sell Game Pass to people, what better way to sell it than a globally recognized property like a Marvel game or like Star Wars, right? Like, would I like? I was thinking because I was going through my head like, okay, here are the studios. Like, what would they work? Like, hey, the Coalition work on like a Punisher video game? Like that would be cool. Or like Ninja Theory work on like Captain America or you know some other like melee based. I think what some of it is I think Insomniac wants to work on those games, and clearly PlayStation is going to let them do what they want. And since Spider-Man was so successful, of course they're going to do a second one. And Marvel's probably like, hey, is there any other superhero you guys want to do? And Wolverine. So it's like, of course PlayStation's going to be like, well, yeah, 100%. And Marvel's going to be like, you do what you do because we made bank off of the Spider-Man video game. So we talked about it before on not only on this very show, but other shows where Xbox studios have creative freedom to do what they want. I think, and we all know Xbox Studios are working on many different projects. Some pre-acquisition they're still working on or started working on. I think if one of the studios came to Phil and Matt and said, you know what, our next game, we want to work on a Marvel IP and we want to work on this, I think Phil and Matt would get the IP for them to work on.
Yeah,
I
agree.
If that's like if Ninja Theory was like, hey, we finished Project Mara, we're done Hellblade 2, our like game that we want to make, like we want to work on a Doctor Strange video game, I think Phil and Matt would be like, okay, we'll get that for you. You can work on it, you know? So I think it's a matter of like teams and projects, you know, rather than like it being like have to be done. I think it really has to do with desire, or to me at least. So because I don't think Phil and Matt and those guys are going to mandate you need to do this. I think they're going to be like, you know what, we as a studio, we want to take on something like Iron Man, and we want to be able to do it. And I think Xbox would make that happen. But then it also comes down to, if none of them want to do it, then maybe there won't be ever an Xbox exclusive Marvel game. Maybe, like you said, it just cuts too much into profitability and all that stuff for them to ever be viable. Maybe none of the studios really care about superhero games. And honestly, just slapping Marvel on something doesn't mean it's going to sell good. We all saw what happened to Avengers and Crystal Dynamics. Like an Avengers game coming off the heels of the biggest movie of all time. Everybody thought it was going to be a slam dunk. And nobody really cared. And there were reports that they lost a ton of money on the Avengers game, like $80 million or whatever it was, right? And they also are doing a Guardians of the Galaxy game, and that was at the Sony Showcase. And honestly, that game doesn't look very good. Granted, I haven't played it. I'm just judging from the trailers. None of the trailers that they showed for Guardians of the Galaxy makes me want to play Guardians of the Galaxy, and I actually like the movies. And then you have like Marvel, Midnight Suns for 2K. I have no interest in that. So I think it's not just enough to have the IP. The game has to be special, which means the developer has to be really good, which Insomniac is, and that's why people are excited about Wolverine, because it's like Insomniac, they've already proven their track record. So yeah, I mean, it can't just be just do it, just to do it. It would have to be like, it would have to actually be good for it to, like, you don't want a bad game, right? You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I don't know. Do you foresee in the future them doing it, Jez? If you had to make a bet right now, an Xbox exclusive Marvel or DC superhero game coming in the next 10 years?
There were some like weird rumors that Microsoft were doing something with the Star Wars IP. I don't know if those were debunked or not. I can see them doing it. I mean, they're probably going to look at how Indiana Jones performs, because obviously Microsoft are going to have intimate knowledge of that from working with Machine Games. And they'll probably be like, oh, wow, Indiana Jones really, boosted the sellability and profitability and the margins of this game. Or they might be the opposite way and be like, oh, wow, the fact that we had to give Disney, 20% of the profits really screwed the profitability of this game, Maybe they could go for some, like, a cheaper IP, like Spawn. I think Spawn would probably be cheaper to access than, one of the Marvel dudes, like Captain America or something. But I don't know. I don't think they need to do it. I think it's basically what you said. There has to be a desire. There has to be a pitch. There has to be a prototype. And there has to be like someone basically saying like, we want to make this game, and here's the deck, and here's the plan, and give us the money, But part of me is wondering, like, is Insomniac and Sony building up like a pantheon of Marvel games that are going to cross over and intersect with each other? Are they going to be are they building their own MCU under,
I mean,
under Sony?
It's certainly possible.
That could be bad for Xbox. If they do like a whole sort of slate of Marvel games that eventually converge in sort of like a an Avengers sort of way at some point, that could be spooky maybe for Xbox, but I don't think that's going to be the case. And plus, Disney not Disney, Square Enix are doing the whole Avengers thing. Are they still doing Avengers?
Yeah, I mean, they just put out the Black Panther expansion, and the Spider-Man stuff is supposed to come this fall. So they're still trying to turn that game around. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think, as I say, like, I was going to ask you if you think we'll see one in the next 10 years. I don't think we will, honestly. I know that's probably going to piss people off, but I don't know. Like, if I had to make a bet right now, I would say it's probably not likely you would see an exclusive Marvel game from an Xbox studio. For all the reasons that Jez and myself had mentioned, I just personally don't see it. Vincent says, y'all damage controlling, to be honest. If I was Phil, I'd pull up the Ninja Theory like, yo, I don't give a fuck what you're doing. Go make a Daredevil game. These motherfuckers are marketable. You should want that on your box. Damage control and what? Like, I don't understand. Like, they've already talked about how their teams have creative freedom. Phil's pulling up to Ninja Theory and being like, yo, dog, make a Daredevil game or you're fired, is total opposite of what they want for their studios.
Yeah, they want them to have limited integration, and they want them to have creative freedom, and they want new ideas. They want new ideas that they can fully own and fully leverage. So they're looking for the next Halo. They're looking for the next whatever. They're not looking for giving Disney money, you know. But I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Wait and see.
I mean, I don't know.
But
It's certainly possible. I don't know.
let's round. Yeah, let's round this discussion off with.
Okay.
If you had to pick one, and chat, you can participate in this as well. If you had to pick one comic book IP or story IP to make into a game, and you could choose the Xbox studio who did it, what would you do? And you can't pick Wheel of Time.
Aw. Well, let's see. I would like there to be a big X-Men game, or like a Justice League game.
Who would make that?
That's a good question. Like first party, so the Initiative.
Okay.
There we go. Cancel Perfect Dark. Make me a X-Men game or a Justice League game. There we go. I want to team up. Because, like, yeah, it's cool to play as Wolverine or Spider-Man or whatever, but, like, how cool would it be to be, like, not only are you Wolverine, but you're Cyclops, and you're Jean Grey, and you're Rogue, and you're Beast, you know, like, or it's Batman, it's Superman, it's Green Lantern, it's the Flash, right? And you have, like, all the characters and their different play styles and this huge thing, like, that would be cool. Not just one superhero, but all the superheroes. You know what I mean?
There's some really cool suggestions in chat. We got Spawn from Ninja Theory, Arcane on Batman. That'd be interesting. Batman from id Software, Punisher, the Coalition,
Punisher,
X-Men
the
Legends,
Punisher by id Software, Jez.
Yeah. I think Blade from Ninja Theory would be a pretty good one. It's just kind of fun to imagine, right? I also think man, I kind of want like a Rorschach game made by Arcane. Rorschach from The Watchmen. I think that'd be pretty badass. Because Rorschach obviously doesn't exactly have any superpowers, but pretty nasty, dangerous kind of superhero.
Yeah. Carlos says the Coalition making Republic Commando 2. So like a Star Wars thing from them.
Deadpool.
Hargit says for
that.
Xbox to get a license for a game, they need a studio to want to make a Marvel game. It's more than just getting the license.
Yeah, it is. It's a whole logistical thing. You know, it's people like, oh my god, I want this to happen. Microsoft, make it happen. But it's like, studio has to want it to happen. They have to have a pitch that makes sense. Then you have to get it all approved and stuff like that. I don't know.
Space Dovakin says a Wonder Woman God of War like game. There you go. That could be cool.
I never seen Wonder Woman.
I mean, it's certainly possible that when some of these studios are done with their projects, and they're like, you know what, we want to be on the level of Insomniac. Let's tackle a beloved IP and make it the best we can, so we can be in that discussion. Like, it's certainly something that could happen. I mean, hell, you could even see someone like In Exile after they finish Project Cobalt, maybe like, you know what, let's do a Star Wars RPG. Because that's the one thing, like, what would get people into Game Pass or the Xbox ecosystem more? Just a new RPG from Obsidian or Insomniac, or a Marvel, DC, or Star Wars game? Like, because let's be honest here, like the Marvel, DC, and Star Wars has a wider appeal and can get people into the ecosystem and into Game Pass in a way that Avowed may not, or Project Cobalt may not. But if you put it like a great, like, imagine a scenario where after they finish Hellblade 2, Ninja Theory is working on a amazing Black Panther game, and it comes out and it's really good and it's day one on Game Pass. That could shift more Game Pass subscriptions than any other game from Xbox Game Studios, simply based on how good it is and the type of, you know, breadth and reach that a Marvel IP could have. I mean, talk about Indiana Jones.
That's a good point, actually.
You know,
that's a good point. Like for maybe if you were looking at retail sales, like the fact that Disney would be taking a cut on each of those is something to be said. But for Game Pass, it really does change the narrative a bit, because if you've got like an established IP that everyone knows, including casuals and like your parents and your grandparents or whatever, and you say that's in Game Pass and you market that along with Game Pass, that almost becomes a Game Pass marketing tool, even beyond the game itself. So that is an interesting angle that I didn't even think of. I do think like The Matrix is probably going to end up getting a big budget game.
Yeah.
Like, did you see the trailer for Matrix 4?
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Oh my god!
You know,
Like I had just goosebumps watching that.
you
I
have the new
love
Lord of the Rings TV show next year. What if there's a Lord of the Rings game to go along with it?
That'll be Monolith though, surely.
Right,
Right?
sure. I'm just saying, like, a well-known IP, a great game could do wonders for the proliferation of Game Pass among people. Because I think one of the things we talk about with Game Pass is it needs to reach a casual audience, right? And they hope Halo's going to do that. They hope Starfield's going to do that in a bigger way than, like, something like Artful Escape, right? The big games are what people want. I think the big games are what people subscribe for. But if you had a Black Panther game that was amazing and it was day one on Game Pass, like, that would sell the service to people who probably don't even know what Game Pass is. Same thing, like a Star Wars game. So maybe they do need that. Maybe they do need it for their goals of getting Game Pass everywhere. Where, like, Avowed is probably going to appeal to a very niche section of the gamer audience. People who like RPGs, Skyrim-style games. Like, that's not going to speak to a casual gamer who doesn't really know. Like, they're going to be like, what's Avowed? Who cares? But that casual gamer looks at Spider-Man and is like, wait a minute. Like, I like Spider-Man. I love Marvel movies. I think there's something to be said to that maybe they should try. Maybe Indiana Jones will... You say Indiana... We talk about how Indiana Jones and Machine Games is doing it, and it's like, well, who really cares about Indiana Jones in 2021? But Indiana Jones still has a lot of name power. And what if Indiana Jones actually does more for Game Pass than Starfield? Simply because Indiana Jones is a more well-known IP across, like, entertainment and movies than just Star. And it's something to think about, and they would have to have the data for it. That's what we always said. Like, Microsoft needs to put big AAAs from third party into Game Pass. Like, to simply see if it's a viable scenario to see what sort of data you get back and how many subscribers you get and what the engagement is and how much DLC and microtransactions you sell. You're never going to know until you try.
I agree. You're right. I didn't think of the Game Pass angle. Like, that is marketing for Game Pass more than anything. I was just thinking of, like, the retail sales and having to license from Disney and all that bullshit. But when you factor in Game Pass and subscriptions, it completely changes the argument. Pong Soul just made a really great point. He said a new Star Wars MMO from the Elder Scrolls team would be fantastic.
Yep.
I think that's another point too. Like the Star Wars, I know it's Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is like the aging MMO from EA BioWare, is like that started getting more content again recently, and I think that's like because Disney's trying to market Star Wars again a bit harder than they were back in the day, and that started getting content again. But the game's so old at this point. It's like it's aged worse than World of Warcraft, Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I do think a new Star Wars MMO, it's definitely something that they could explore. But man, it's true. There's like a huge amount of potential, and I think like the fact that we're even sitting here discussing this just proves how much brand power stuff like Wolverine and Spider-Man have.
Well, exactly. I mean, Spider-Man is culture. It's a cultural thing. It extends beyond video games, right?
Yes.
And I think Wolverine won't sell as well because I don't think Wolverine is as loved as Spider-Man. But you're talking about like what they call in movies like 4-quadrant. It appeals to young, old, girls, dudes, right? And that's, I think, something that is missing from Game Pass at the moment, that a Marvel game or a DC game or a Star Wars game could fix. And if you just say, it's like, hey, make the game and it sells itself and we can market Game Pass, then it's something that Microsoft might have to, invest some time into to discovering if it's worth it or not. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Let's see here. Battlefield 2042 and Dying Light got delayed. Are you surprised about the Battlefield delay? 1 month?
That is weirdly random, but on on one hand, I'm not that surprised about it because I did play the alpha, and
Mm,
oh boy, it didn't feel. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's an alpha, but it didn't. It didn't feel
Are you seeing
particularly
some of these videos from the Call of Duty open beta with all the graphical problems it has, the graphical
Oh, dude,
glitches?
I played the Call of Duty Vanguard beta. I've got it at the moment. I played it for a bit yesterday.
Yeah.
It's bad, man.
Ugh.
It's
Ugh.
like I'm one of the weirdos who prefers World War II Call of Duty. I just prefer it. Like I don't like all the crazy gadgets. I don't like all the the weird extra features that some of the modern games have. I don't like the healing injector thing in like the most recent Call of Duty. I just want like a sort of classic Call of Duty experience, and I felt like the World War Two ones offer that to some degree, but this Call of Duty Vanguard feels so bad, and I know it's like there's still a couple of months out and stuff, but like it just some of the stuff just feels so. It just feels so bad. It feels so cheap. It just you can just tell that it's a reskin, another reskin. It just feels so lazy. I don't know why people keep buying these games year in year out, knowing how lazy they are. It's so annoying because Call of Duty World at War is my favorite Call of Duty of all time. And like I was playing Call of Duty Vanguard and thinking, man, I just want to play Call of Duty World at War. Like Call of Duty World at War feels better than the modern Call of Duty games. I don't know. But that's like slightly off on a tangent. We are talking about Battlefield being delayed,
Yeah.
and I suppose like I'm not surprised, man. I wouldn't be surprised. Like Jeff Grubb said. I think it was Jeff Grubb who kickstarted some rumors that it was going to be delayed, and people were expecting it to be delayed to next year. I think some other people said they'd heard rumors that it would be delayed till next year. And sorry, getting tired now. And EA's share price took a bit of a tumble. Did
Yeah,
you
$2
see?
billion, yeah.
Yeah, and poor Jeff Grubb's probably being investigated by the IRS now. But the delay was not that bad. It was just a few weeks or whatever. For
It's
whatever
actually like a
reason.
month. It's like a month.
Yeah, I suppose.
But Dying Light 2 got delayed to February of next year, which
yeah,
I expected as soon as Halo was decided they were going to come out the day after. I'm like, not going to be long until Dying Light 2 gets delayed.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. You mentioned that there's a 500 gigabyte Xbox storage card that's supposed to be coming out, right? Leaked or whatever.
Yeah, Xbox Squad.fr, which is a French Xbox site, very, very cool. They actually uncovered this from a French retail wholesaler, and then they also found a corroborative listing. Since I have, posted about it, I've gotten hints from sources that it could actually definitely be real. So I am thoroughly expecting that to be announced soon. The 512 gigabyte Seagate card. That's half as expensive as the other one. I don't think it's
Is it
a
half
lot
as
for a lot of.
expensive? So it's like $100 bucks?
It's gonna be like $120, I think.
Mm. Here's the thing: do people?
$230.
I thought people wanted more storage, not less. Like 2
Yeah,
terabyte card and a 4 terabyte card, not a 500 gigabyte card.
yeah, but that's gonna be who's gonna buy those? Who's gonna buy that stuff, man?
I mean,
They're gonna get so expensive. CF Express is really expensive, so I think like I don't know. I think this is a good holiday product. Like it's a good thing you can gift it to people, and it's cheap enough to gift to people. It also comes out right in time for Call of Duty, which is going to be like 500 gigabytes by itself probably, and that sort of stuff. But I'm with you, man. Like I don't know why they don't release a 2 terabyte version as well. Maybe they will. Maybe that's in the plan. Um, but this is the trade-off. You get fast storage, you get fast loading speeds, and you get all these extra fast features. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. CF Express is not cheap. And then they could have gone for a different standard, but then you'd have to do the Sony thing and get a screwdriver out and do all that stuff. So I think this was like the best of both worlds, maybe. But I'm still waiting for like the price to come down on the 1 terabyte version because I don't have one of those right now. But
Yeah.
oh well.
You know what? We'll take some questions. So I guess we're gonna come to the end of the show. So if you guys want to ask some questions, make sure to put them in chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. So I want to thank everybody for being here this Friday afternoon, early evening. Had over 1,300 people watching, Jez, as we discussed the new acquisitions that Special Nick said are coming on Monday. And Ubisoft, Take-Two, and Warner Brothers games will all be announced for Xbox on Monday. It'll be an amazing day, right? Best day ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, thank for everyone for being here. Yeah, we'll be back next week with the new studio that Xbox is acquiring on Monday to talk about the implications of that, right? Because it's totally happening, 100%.
Totally happening.
Totally happening,
right,
guys. Wink,
if
wink.
it happens now, if it happens now, it's gonna be so funny.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it does. I hope I'm wrong. I hope like it actually happens and people give me shit for what I said during that section because I love it. I'll love it because it'll give me something to talk about instead of like, hey, what about this Gear 6 NVIDIA leak? Yeah, no shit, Gear 6 is going to be being made. Woo. It's a tough one there, you know? Right? And you know what, Jez, we should do? If they do make an acquisition on Monday and they talk about, like, oh, we acquired Take-Two, we should do a podcast then.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. And Thaneros says, what determines if a game has remote play? That's a good question, Jez. Do you know? Remote play, I think, isn't any game... Can't you play any game with remote play? It just... I don't think there's...
You can play any game with remote play.
I think he probably maybe means, like, what makes a game determine if it has... streamable via an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, because not all games are in the cloud, right? I think maybe that's a...
if you're talking about remote play from your personal Xbox, if it's remote play from your personal Xbox, any game. You can stream any game from your personal Xbox. I think. When it comes to cloud games, Microsoft's keeping a very sort of tight leash on the games that hit xCloud, and there is a reason for that. And the reason for that is capacity. From what I've heard, Microsoft is gradually expanding the capacity of xCloud, and when the capacity grows, they'll also add more games in. And a lot of the silicon they're getting for the Xbox Series X right now is actually going into servers. So I expect a big push for xCloud next year, and a big push for xCloud also means more games, I would think.
Yeah. Peter wants to know if I'm going to be playing Kenna Bridge of Spirits on Tuesday. Most likely, yes. Unless, like, all the reviews come out and say it's like 30, 40, and it's a horrible game. But, yeah, I'm pretty much I'm pretty much going to play it. I finished Deathloop. I got to finish up True Life is Strange. I have that. I want to play that. I did also, my game share partner bought Tales of Arise, but I don't know if that game's for me, even though it's like highly rated. I don't know if I'm going to play that. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And then we got Far Cry coming, and then Back 4 Blood, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though it doesn't look very good, I still might just buy it because that's what I do. I play video games. I don't sit on Twitter talking about acquisitions and tease vague things so I can say, like, I knew it when, you really don't, I'm just going to read my book, The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, the 5th book in the Wheel of Time series. I finished the 4th book, The Shadow Rising, last night, and now I got 900 pages of this to read, and I'll probably finish this in a couple days, and then I'll read Lord of Chaos, the 6th book. And then after the 6th book is where it kind of takes a nosedive a little bit because there's so many characters and there's so many plot points that it kind of ends up like Game of Thrones for a bit. And book 7 and 8 aren't the greatest because there's so many things happening that kind of slows down the plot progression. But then something happens in 9, which is amazing. And then 10 and 11 aren't that great. But then 12, 13, 14 are the end. The last 3 are supposed to be incredible. So, yeah. That's what happens when you're reading a 14-book series, man. Some of them all of them can't be great. And it's like at that point where you have so many characters and so many things going on, it just weighs down everything. So, let's see. We have one from Chaos Might who says, I've been on the road for 5 hours, and you were 3 of those hours. I can't believe you guys are still going. It's great, not negative. Microsoft is going to acquire Sony next. That'd be funny. Jake says, buy Sega and give us an action JRPG Skies of Arcadia with airship combat. Do you see, didn't Square just announce, or someone just announced like an RPG that people were looking forward to, and then it was announced as like a cell phone RPG or something, like a mobile RPG?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Sega announced, I can't remember what game it was, but like everyone was like, yeah, and then it was like a mobile game, and they're like, no.
Lydia says, how would you compare the PlayStation presentation to the Xbox presentation? How did they set the stage for the new generation of gaming? I thought Xbox's presentation was better. Like they showed, and I think their message was also clear. Like their message was Game Pass, and we have the games for it. And 27 to 30 games were Game Pass, and here's some of ours, and here's some of the third parties. Whereas PlayStation was a little bit more muddled. They showed a lot of like multi-plat games, but not in the way where Xbox did, where at least there was like a Game Pass day one tied to it. So it was just like, we have a marketing deal for Guardians, so we need to show it again. Deathloop, we paid a lot of money for Deathloop, so we're showing it again. Here's a trailer for Rainbow Six Extraction because we paid Ubisoft to market it, right? It wasn't really until the end that it kind of felt like more of a PlayStation show. Was like, well, here's our games. So I think Xbox's was better. And also I think maybe expectations had to do with it, because all I read on Twitter for the whole week prior was how this PlayStation show was going to destroy everything Xbox ever was going to do. And it really didn't. It was a good show, but it wasn't great by any means. And, then you have the double standards was coming into play. How it's okay for Sony to show CGI in games that are 3 years out, but it's not for Xbox. You have double standards, and for a bunch of people, like people were upset that Xbox was showing CGI and we're showing games 3 years out, but are totally okay with PlayStation doing it. So I would say Xbox's was better personally. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Would you so everyone's idol says, would you rather Gears go back to survival horror shooter or go further into the open world minor RPG thing?
Would you say survival horror ever?
I mean, some people think the first game is more survival horror, but I don't really think so. I mean, if we're actually talking about real survival horror, yeah, that would be cool. They did just need to ditch like the things that make Gears, like the roadie run and like the weight of the characters. Like they need to free it up to be, and I'm not saying like it needs to be Outriders, but quicker combat, quicker movement, powers, like Highbusters had and stuff. But they won't do that because they're going to finish off the 6th game. So hopefully they can do more of the stuff they can or are thinking of doing, like for their smaller game. Let's see. Someone wants to know if I've read any David Gemmell. I don't think so. Episode 13 says, "What is the acquisition? Rumors?" Yeah, nothing but people thinking they know things. I doubt anything happens next week. Both me and Jez doubt anything happens next week, but we would both like for stuff to happen. And mine says, do you think they will show anything good on the Tokyo Game Show? I'm going to say no. At least not that we would want. I mean, they did say it's basically for that region, so I don't expect there to be any like groundbreaking announcements. Most people thought the Gamescom show was not very good, and I would expect the same for this one. Stagy Caesar says, are you still going to replay GTA 5 campaign after the underwhelming trailer? Just wondering. Yeah, Jez, did you notice how many dislikes the GTA trailers got after they...
Yeah, that was funny as hell. People are sick of GTA.
Yeah, they are sick of GTA 5. I mean, I'm
I'm
not.
pretty sick with GTA, and I haven't even played it since it
See,
came
I
out.
haven't played it since 2013, so I only played the campaign once. So yeah, like if there's not a lot to play in March of next year, I'll probably definitely pick it up and play through the campaign. It'd been
Well, you're
what?
part of the problem.
Well, I don't care. I'm not playing the multiplayer, so I'm not going to be giving them any money on the microtransactions end. And it's not like me not buying the game is going to somehow make Grand Theft Auto 6 come out any sooner. But hopefully, when Microsoft buys Take Two on Monday, we can, you know, we can get some information about GTA 6 from Phil, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Caloric says thoughts about Nvidia leaks for Titanfall 3 and Sony games coming to PC. The Sony games coming to PC thing I think is pretty much true. Titanfall 3, I mean, I think didn't they talk about Titanfall 3? But the success of Apex Legends kind of pushed it further and further away.
Yeah.
I think they'll do a new Titanfall game at some point.
I damn hope so, man, because Call of Duty's that style of game, the sort of the Twitch shooter arena sort of thing. I don't know what you call it, Twitch shooter. Like the whole Call of Duty format has become so bad under Activision. Like it feels way nicer under Respawn, but I don't like bloody battle royale. I don't just make Titanfall 3 a mode of Apex Legends if you want, and just add a campaign on top of it. I don't know, but I think there is a market for that. I just like with Titanfall 2, I just hated what they did to the Titans. They made them feel so weak. Like the Titans felt like I don't know. They felt like they just died really quickly. I don't know why they did that. I don't know what the logic behind that was. But I felt like more vulnerable in a Titan than I did running around in Titanfall 2. I don't know. Did you find that? Did you play much Titanfall PvP?
No, I didn't really play a lot of Titanfall PvP. I just sort of played the single player.
So I played Titanfall 1 multiplayer to death, and I loved it. Like I got a bunch of trick shot reels and stuff. But Titanfall 2, I just couldn't get into it because of some of the changes they did. I really didn't like what they did to the Titans. And now Titanfall is devastated by hackers. I don't know if you've seen some of this, Rand. But Titanfall 2, they are Titanfall fans are protesting the lack of support by breaking Titanfall 2 servers. Like hackers are all over it and screwing it up and all this stuff. So I don't know. I hope they do make Titanfall 3, but
yeah.
Who knows?
Well, that'll be where we end the show. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out and subscribe if you're new. And yeah, Jez will have this up on Google Play and iTunes and Spotify and all those wonderful places as soon as he's able to. And we'll be back next week. Hopefully talk about the new Xbox Studios and who they are and what they'll bring to the team. But something tells me we won't be. And we'll just be talking about people's disappointments that there weren't any news. Man, as much as I'm going in on this, I'm going to look like such an idiot when it actually happens on Monday.
I don't think you need to worry, man.
Yeah. So we'll see you on Friday next week. Keep it gaming, guys. And yeah, play some Deathloop. Don't just wait for it to come out next year. Play it now because it's a great game. And Jez, what do you think people should play?
I think people should play Prey.
There you go. Play Prey.
Deathloop's not on Xbox yet.
Yeah, I guess play or play Dishonored from Arcane. All in Game Pass.
I might do a new Dishonored run this weekend. I haven't played that game in ages.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back for Dishonored.
All right.